Welcome. This is a place where Zen stories, the Buddha's teachings, and the quiet sounds of the night come together to guide you back to yourself. In this noisy world, you may have felt it too. That moment when someone no longer looks at you the way they once did, no longer values you, no longer needs your presence, and you ask yourself, what did I do wrong? Or, how do I make them see my worth again? But sometimes what you need is not to make someone change, but to wake up to the truth that your worth was never lost. The Buddha taught that suffering does not arise because someone leaves, but because we cling to the image of who we were in their eyes. Just like looking at your reflection in flowing water, the slightest ripple changes the image, yet you remain unchanged. When someone stops appreciating you, the natural reaction is to prove yourself, to hold on, to make them see you. But in that very moment, you forget the essential truth. Worth is not something given by others, and therefore cannot be taken away by anyone. Like the moon reflected on the lake, people may leave, clouds may cover the sky, but the moon remains, waiting for someone calm enough to see it again. Tonight, through the Buddha's teachings and Zen stories, I invite you to pause for a moment, to listen, to soften, and to look more deeply into the very place where you once felt hurt, because right there, the seed of freedom is waiting to bloom. Now, let us step into the first part of this journey, where we relearn the truth about our worth. Worth is not given by others. Have you ever felt that you are trying your very best just to be seen, acknowledged, or simply appreciated by someone, and then, when they stopped caring, you felt empty inside, as if your worth had fallen away with their fading attention? In life, many people confuse being recognized with having worth. When others praise us, we feel bright. When they ignore us, we doubt ourselves. But in truth, worth is not given by anyone. It arises from the clarity within our own heart. Zen teaches, you have no obligation to stay where you are not valued. A lotus does not need rich soil to bloom. It only needs enough light. But how do we find our own light during moments when we feel dismissed, underestimated, or forgotten in the noise of life? The story of Zen Master Tenzai helps us see this more clearly. That true self-respect is not pride, but the calm knowing of who you are, even when no one else sees it. Long ago, in a misty mountain region, there was a small temple hidden in quietness. In that temple, Master Tenzai had lived for decades, a simple life, like a small oil lamp shining without a sound. People came to him not only to learn the Dharma, but to learn how to live with peace in a world full of change. One early morning, when dew still clung to bamboo leaves, a young disciple entered the meditation room. His face looked troubled, his eyes carrying something hard to express. He knelt before the master, his voice trembling. "Master, my heart feels so confused. I give my best, I help people, I try to be kind, but it seems they no longer appreciate me as before. No matter how much I give, I am taken for granted. What did I do wrong?" Master Tenzai did not answer immediately. He quietly poured tea, each drop falling into the cup with a soft sound in the silent room. When the water overflowed and spilled onto the wooden table, the disciple exclaimed, "Master, the tea is overflowing." Tenzai smiled and placed the teapot down. Yes, it is overflowing. When a cup is full, no matter how much more you pour, it will only spill out. You are doing the same with people's hearts, pouring love, care, and energy into a place that has no space left, not because you are wrong, but because they are no longer ready to receive. He looked out the window, where the first light of day shimmered on the lotus pond. When people no longer see you, it doesn't mean you have disappeared. Sometimes their eyes have simply grown dim. Your worth does not lie in how others look at you, but in how you keep your heart bright in the dark. The disciple bowed his head, emotions rising. Outside, a lotus petal fell gently onto the water, leaving expanding ripples. The master continued, his voice deep and soft like the morning breeze. Do you see? The lotus does not wait for praise to bloom. It blooms when its time comes. You also do not need to prove your worth through love or recognition. Just keep blooming with your own light. The disciple raised his head, eyes moist but clearer. He realized that sometimes stepping back is not about losing love, but about respecting himself. When he no longer sought light outside, he finally saw the light within that had never faded. In the silence of the temple, amid the wind and faint scent of tea, Master Tenzai only smiled. He knew another person had learned one of life's greatest lessons, that worth does not need to be seen in order to exist, just as the lotus does not need an audience to bloom. In Buddhist teachings, there is a truth called non-self, meaning the self is not fixed. Much of human suffering comes from identifying our worth with how others see us. When praised, we rejoice. When ignored, we hurt. But in Zen, this is only an illusion. Worth cannot be added or taken away by someone else's words, just as the moon remains full even when clouds cover it. A practitioner must learn to see themselves without needing a witness. When Master Tenzai spoke of the overflowing cup, he was speaking of the limits of the human heart. There are places that no longer hold the goodness we offer. Staying only drains us further. From the perspective of modern psychology, this corresponds to self-worth dependency, the tendency to rely on others' feedback to feel valuable. When we live in constant evaluation, we lose the ability to define ourselves. But when we develop inner stability, worth becomes unshakable, untouched by praise or criticism. If one day you feel unappreciated, don't rush to blame others. Ask yourself, am I trying to hold on to something that no longer belongs to me? As the master said, do not keep pouring water into a full cup. Stepping back is not coldness, it is wisdom. When you stop seeking recognition from outside, you begin to truly see yourself. And in that space, self-respect is born. Not because someone says you deserve it, but because you finally recognize that you always have. A study at Stanford University once stated, people who can define their self-worth on their own are less affected by rejection and have stronger mental resilience. This aligns perfectly with the Buddha's teaching. The one who knows they have enough is the richest, even with empty hands. If you are hearing these words at the end of the day, pause for a deep breath. Feel the breath entering and leaving, like a cool breeze within your chest. Let the image of Master Tenzai and the overflowing cup settle into your mind. Whenever you feel dismissed, remember this image. The cup is already full, and stopping the pouring is not giving up. It is the act of an awakened person. As you fall asleep, Don't carry the anger of not being seen. Smile gently and remind yourself, my worth does not lie in their gaze. Soften your shoulders. Loosen your hands and let your mind sink into stillness like a quiet lake. Only in that stillness can you hear your own calling. Sleep, when begun with gratitude and self-respect, becomes a deep form of meditation. When you sleep in peace, the mind no longer struggles for recognition. Only the breath remains, which is the sign of inner freedom. Master Tenzai's story ends in silence, but its echo flows like water through the disciple's heart. When the moon shone over the pond that night, he suddenly understood. No one can take away the worth of a person who knows how to shine from within. From that day on, he no longer sought recognition from others. He simply lived quietly, did good, and knew when to stop. That calmness made others see him differently, not because he changed to be loved, but because he no longer needed to be loved. And from that place, a new journey began. Once, a seeker lived only to help others, giving without conditions. But when his kindness was taken for granted, he suffered and came to Master Ryoten. The master said, when you continue pouring water into a cup that is already full, the water is wasted and the cup gains nothing. The next teaching, about withdrawing your energy from places that no longer hold it, will show us this truth. Knowing when to stop is not selfishness, but an act of respecting yourself and protecting the inner light that helps illuminate the world. Have you ever wondered why your kindness, no matter how sincere, is sometimes taken for granted? Why the more you give, the more drained, hurt, or misunderstood you feel? People often say, do good and good will return. But in reality, the kinder you are, the more you may suffer for it. Does kindness have a limit? Or is it simply because we haven't understood what it means to give in the right way? In the Dharma, there is a subtle teaching that few truly understand. Compassion must go together with wisdom. Compassion without wisdom easily becomes weakness. Wisdom without compassion turns cold. Between these two shores, people often lose their way. Many wish to help others, yet unintentionally lose themselves in the process. One autumn morning, dew still clung to the old pine branches. The sound of the temple bell echoed far, blending with the murmuring stream in the valley. On the stone path leading to the ancient meditation hall, a seeker walked quietly. The soft crunch of pebbles underfoot mixed with the misty stillness of dawn. Their face carried a shadow of exhaustion, their eyes deep and troubled, like someone who had held pain inside for too long. This was someone who had lifted others many times, who had brought light into dark places. But now, they themselves felt lost, as if the whole world had turned away. Stopping at the temple gate, they took a deep breath. The morning light glowed on the moss-covered tiles, making the temple seem as if it were breathing. They stood there for a long moment, as if gathering the courage to face what they had been avoiding, themselves. Then they stepped inside and knelt before Zen Master Ryoten, a teacher revered throughout the region for his calm wisdom and gentle compassion. The seeker bowed deeply, their voice trembling. Master, I don't understand. I only wanted to do good. I helped others, I gave, I opened my heart. But in return, I received coldness, even disdain. Why is it that when I offer kindness, I receive only pain. Master Rayatan did not answer immediately. He let silence speak, the way the moon shines without making a sound. His eyes looked through the window toward the garden behind the temple, where a small stream flowed past moss-covered stones, glistening in the early sunlight. Then he poured tea. Every movement was slow and deliberate, as if teaching a lesson through breath alone. He set the cup before the seeker and continued pouring. The water rose, filled the cup, and then overflowed, running down onto the wooden table. The seeker startled. "Master, the tea is overflowing!" Rayatan smiled gently. "Yes, the tea has overflowed, and yet I continue to pour. What do you see happening?" "Master, the water just spills out. The cup cannot take in any more." The master nodded. "And that is what you are doing with your life." He set the teapot down, his voice warm yet deep as an ancient well. "You are pouring your kindness, your care, your very life, into cups that are already full, into hearts with no room left for gratitude. You think it is compassion, but in truth, it is attachment. When you give to someone who can no longer receive, your kindness nourishes no one. It only empties you." He took a sip of tea. "You must understand. Kindness is not about giving without discernment. Giving to the right person at the right moment, that is the wisdom of compassion." Master Rayatan continued with an old story. Long ago, a great river flowed through a dry land. Its water brought life to an entire valley. People came to drink, to farm, to provide for their families. But some greedy ones dug channels to divert water to their own fields, causing the river to thin. The river tried to flow harder to compensate, but the more it pushed, the more exhausted it became. One day, it dried up completely, leaving behind cracked mud. Only then did the valley realize they had taken too much and appreciated too little. The master paused, looking at the seeker for a long moment. Even the river had to learn to stop. It cannot give endlessly when its own source is dry. Your kindness is the same. When you give so much that your heart loses its vitality, that kindness is no longer good. It becomes suffering. The seeker sighed, as if hearing something they had long known but never dared to face. They asked softly, "Then, what should I do?" The master stood and walked to the doorway, pointing at the sky where white clouds drifted. "Do you see the clouds? They can only bring rain when they still hold water. When they are empty, they dissolve into the sky to gather moisture. Only then can they return as rain to nourish the earth. People are the same. Sometimes you must step back, dissolve in silence, without resentment, without resistance, to restore your energy and be reborn." He looked at the seeker, his voice warm like firelight. Letting go is not refusing to love. Letting go is giving your heart a chance to rest. That is the wisdom of compassion. In Zen, this teaching is tied to the concept of living according to conditions without losing your clarity. When we help others, if we secretly hope to be recognized or appreciated, we unknowingly plant seeds of suffering. But when we help with a calm mind, without expectation, our hearts remain free. Yet if you feel drained and exhausted, that is a sign you have wandered too far from the middle way. The Buddha once taught, "When a cup is full, stop pouring, for the excess will be wasted. A wise person does not give until they are empty, because they understand that energy must be preserved to keep the inner light burning. No sun shines all day without rest, and no person can save everyone without cost. In modern psychology, this state is known as compassion fatigue, the exhaustion that comes from constant giving without replenishment. When we give endlessly without renewal, we lose inspiration and easily fall into anger or despair. This is why Zen teaches us to be mindful when giving and to release when enough is enough. When your kindness is taken for granted, do not rush to think others are ungrateful. They are simply living within the limits of their own awareness. Your task is not to resent them, but to pause and protect your good energy from being wasted. If someone does not value you, step back, just as Master Ryoten taught. Do not keep pouring water into a cup that is already full. Stepping back is not giving up. It is seeing clearly where to continue and where to stop. When you withdraw your energy from places that can no longer hold it, you are learning the art of protecting the heart, a higher form of compassion, because only when the heart is rested can compassion endure, according to research by Dr. Kristen Neff, a psychologist specializing in self-compassion. Those who know how to love and protect themselves can maintain compassion for others longer, more steadily, and with less exhaustion. That is the wisdom within kindness. That night, the seeker left the meditation hall in silence. Dew still rested on the temple roof, the faint moonlight glowing over the stone path. They no longer felt as heavy as before. In their heart, a small lamp had been lit, the lamp of awakening. Their steps were gentle yet steady. They understood that sometimes the truest form of love is knowing when to stop, because kindness, without the guidance of wisdom, will burn itself out. And in that quiet moonlight, Master Ryoten whispered, "Remember, do not measure yourself through the eyes of those who cannot see clearly." He said, "A precious gem in the hands of the blind is nothing more than a stone. The gem does not lose its value. Only the one holding it cannot see. From here, another path opens, one that helps us understand that true worth never fades. It is only that some people are not yet bright enough to see it." Have you ever felt looked down on, even though you are still the same person, with the same heart, kindness, and sincerity? Have you ever noticed that just because others don't see your worth, you start doubting your own light? That is a very human paradox. We trust other people more easily than we trust ourselves. One single criticism can make us collapse, while 1,000 kind actions are still not enough for us to believe we have value. We hand over the key to defining ourselves to other people's eyes, and then suffer when they don't know how to use it. Zen teaches, "A precious jewel in the hands of the blind is nothing but a stone." The jewel never loses its value. Only the one holding it, lacking clarity, fails to recognize its beauty. True worth does not lie in someone else's gaze. It lies in the stillness of a mind that knows who it is. One autumn afternoon, as the last light of day rested gently on the old tiled roof of a mountainside temple, Zen Master Chiron sat quietly by the lotus pond. The water shimmered like a mirror reflecting the sky, small ripples moving under the light breeze. A student came toward him, his posture weary. In his eyes, was a sadness so deep it seemed light could not reach it. He bowed for a long time before his teacher, then finally, in a choked voice, said, "Master, I feel like there is nothing about me that is worth anything anymore. People say I am useless, ordinary. I have tried. I have done my best. But it seems no one really sees me. I am so tired." The Zen master did not answer right away. He watched the water's surface, where a yellow lotus leaf had just fallen, gently spinning as it slowly sank. Then he bent down, picked up a small stone, and placed it in the student's hand. "Take this stone to the marketplace. Ask how much people are willing to pay for it. Remember, only ask the price, do not sell it." Though confused, the student did as he was told. He went to the first fruit stall. The shopkeeper glanced at the stone and said, "I sell fruit, I don't need rocks. If you want to trade for fun, I'll give you 1 coin. He walked on and came to the largest jewelry shop in the market. The owner picked up the stone, examined it under the light, and suddenly his eyes widened. "This isn't a stone. This is an old pearl, extremely rare. If you're willing to sell, I'll pay you a whole bag of gold." The student was stunned. He returned to the temple and told everything in disbelief. Master Chiron smiled softly, his eyes deep as layered clouds. "You see, the jewel never changed. The only difference was whose eyes were looking at it. One who is blind to light sees only a stone. One with wisdom sees a jewel. Your worth is the same. It does not vanish just because someone is not clear enough to recognize it." The student stayed silent for a long time, but he still could not hide the pain in his heart. "Master, I understand. But why does my heart still hurt, even though I know they are wrong?" The master looked up at the sky, slowly turning the colors of sunset. A thin new moon had already appeared through the clouds, as if listening to their conversation, because deep down, you still want their approval. You still believe your worth only exists when others confirm it. And that is the invisible chain human beings place on themselves. He continued with an old story. Many years ago, there was a jeweler named Aaron. One day, while digging at the foot of a mountain, he found a large gem. Afraid it would be stolen, Aaron hid the gem and only broke off a small piece to take to the market. But when people in the market saw it, they laughed. "A cloudy stone like that, who would buy it?" Aaron went home discouraged, convinced he had been mistaken, and that what he had was worthless. Years later, a traveling monk stopped by his house. When he saw the large gem, the monk immediately placed his palms together. "This is an extremely rare treasure jewel. It appears only once in hundreds of years. You are truly fortunate to have found it." Aaron burst into tears, not from joy, but from regret. He had spent most of his life treating a priceless treasure like an ordinary rock, simply because he believed people who did not know how to see. Master Chiron placed his hand on the student's shoulder and said quietly, "People are often like that. They hear a few careless judgments and then decide they are worthless. But the true jewel, the kind heart, the clarity, the deep qualities within, has never disappeared. It is only waiting for you to be awake enough to see yourself." In Buddhist teaching, ignorance is not just a lack of information, it is the inability to see our true nature. When we do not see our own pure nature clearly, we are easily shaken by the way the world looks at us. The blind person in the story represents that ignorance, not only in others, but sometimes in ourselves. We do not see the jewel inside us, so we go around asking others to define us. The more we search outside, the more we lose what is inside. The more we crave recognition, the further we move from freedom. The master once said, "One who truly knows who they are no longer needs praise or blame, because they live from the seeing nature, the knowing that is beyond comparison. Those who live from the false mind always measure their worth by the applause of the crowd." In Zen, there is a concept called reflecting the mind, turning back to look within. When you quietly observe your mind, you will see a bright jewel lying deep beneath the dust of memories, fears, and judgments. You don't need to scrub it harshly. Just pause, breathe deeply, and that light will gradually appear. Modern psychology has a similar concept: self-concept clarity. The clarity of knowing who you are. People who know who they are and live according to their true values are less affected by outside evaluations, experience less stress, and possess a natural inner calm. What Zen has taught for thousands of years is now being confirmed by science. To know yourself is the root of peace. If someone does not see your worth, do not be too sad. Their eyes may still be blinded by ignorance, fear, jealousy, or simply by not yet having learned how to see deeply. You do not need to prove anything. Just live truthfully, live clearly, live kindly. Time will be the best witness. A pearl, while still hidden in its shell, is seen by no one. It endures darkness, the scraping of sand, and the grinding of time, so that one day, when it is opened, its light leaves people speechless. You are the same. The pain you experience today is not meaningless. It is polishing the jewel within you. Do not run away from places where you feel overlooked. See them as a test that shows you what still makes you waver. When you no longer react, no longer feel the need to prove yourself, that is when you have truly matured. A fascinating study at Yale University found that people who can accept being misunderstood or misjudged are twice as likely to make clear and independent decisions. This is exactly like the Buddha's words in the Dhammapada: like a solid rock that the wind cannot move, the wise remain unmoved by praise or blame. The next morning, Master Karen's student went into the garden, picked up a small white stone, and placed it on his palm. The morning sun shone through it, making it glow like a gem. He smiled, the smile of someone who understands. From that day on, he no longer tried to please everyone. He simply lived like that gem, clear, humble, and free. The Zen master passed by and said softly, "When you no longer need to be seen, your light will naturally shine." Then he went on to tell his student, "In this life, when you are not appreciated, don't argue, don't beg, don't explain. Step back, bright and silent, because your absence will speak louder than 1,000 defenses." That is the next lesson about the power of silence, where self-respect becomes light and stepping away becomes the path back to yourself. Have you ever tried your absolute best to explain yourself to someone, only to feel the distance between you growing wider with every word? Have you ever realized that the more you justify yourself, the less people seem to listen? In moments like that, we often think silence is weakness, but sometimes silence is the deepest language of wisdom. Zen teaches, do not argue, do not beg, do not justify. Simply step back, clear in your silence. Your absence will speak louder than 1,000 defenses. Silence is not avoidance. It is choosing not to waste energy on what no longer needs it. Silence is knowing that truth does not require noise to exist, like the moon, which never competes with the sun for light. It simply waits for night and then shines in its own stillness. Long ago, at the foot of the misty Tsuren Mountains, there was a small village where people lived simply and were easily swayed by curiosity. In that village lived a man named Arai. Everyone knew him as gentle, kind, always ready to help those in need. His words were always calm and clear, and whenever someone misunderstood him, Arai would patiently explain so no one felt hurt. But life is strange. When people's hearts shift, even kindness can become a thorn in someone else's eye. One day, a rumor spread through the village that Arai was not genuine. They said he was pretending, trying to win favor, even hiding bad intentions. Arai was confused and devastated. From someone once trusted, he became an object of suspicion. Every day he searched for someone willing to listen. He tried explaining, tried proving himself, tried telling people he had never meant harm. But the more he spoke, the more people avoided him. The more he explained, the stronger the rumor grew. Somehow, the truth became more distorted every time he tried to correct it. In despair, Arai finally decided to climb the mountain to seek Zen Master Ryotan, the wise teacher respected throughout the region. When he saw the master, Arai knelt down, his voice breaking. "Master, what must I do for people to understand that I have done nothing deceitful?" Master Ryotan did not answer immediately. He simply stood and signaled for Arai to follow him into the temple courtyard. Under the shadow of a tall pine, there was a cracked jade cup on the ground. Ryotan picked up a water jug and poured water into the cup. As soon as the water touched it, it began to leak through the crack. It spilled out on both sides, dripping onto the small stones scattered beneath their feet. "What do you see?" the master asked. Arai replied immediately, "The cup is cracked, so it cannot hold water." Ryotan nodded gently. "That's right. The cracked cup is like the mind of someone who has already closed themselves. The more you pour, the more is lost. The more you explain, the less they can hold what you say. Someone who has already decided to misunderstand you cannot hear you, no matter how much you speak." Arai watched the water seep into the earth, his heart growing heavy. A light breeze passed through, carrying the faint scent of young pine needles. Master Ryotan continued, his voice calm like a distant stream. "Silence is not losing. Silence is saving your water for places that can still hold it. When you step back, the truth will find its own way to speak. Like that water, even when it falls to the ground, it will seep into roots and one day return as rain. Truth is never lost as long as you do not force it." Arai bowed his head for a long time. For the first time, he understood that sometimes the best thing we can do is to stop trying to be understood so we can protect our inner peace. In Buddhism, there is a concept called right speech, speaking truth, speaking kindly, speaking wisely, and knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Not all silence is avoidance, and not all words are truth. Sometimes, silence is a form of right speech, because it comes from wisdom, not ego. In Zen, practitioners are taught to stop at the right moment. When someone insults you, their mind is stirred like waves, and if you react immediately, the two waves collide and become a storm. But if you remain still, the storm exists on only one side, and it will fade on its own within the quiet space of your mind. Silence is not so the other person wins. It is so you do not lose yourself. The wise do not speak to prove anything, because they know truth does not fear time. Muddy water settles when left alone. A restless mind becomes clear when left alone. In the same way, when we stop arguing, truth reveals itself without our effort. Modern psychology calls this the slow response, the skill of emotional maturity. Instead of reacting immediately, one chooses silence to observe the entire situation. Studies show that people who can pause before reacting experience 60% less stress and possess stronger leadership qualities. What the Buddha taught over 2,000 years ago has now been confirmed by science. Silence does not weaken us. It gives us mastery. In life, some relationships do not need a final conversation, only a quiet withdrawal. When someone stops listening, do not try to speak louder. Simply step away gently, because silence is the final word of awakening. If someone misjudges you, remember, people only hear according to the level of their awareness. A person drowning in anger cannot hear truth. They can only hear the echo of their own rage. Let time do its work. Silence does not mean giving up. It means making room for karma, for clarity, and for natural unfolding, like a river. When the water is muddy, no one can bathe. But when left undisturbed, the silt settles and the water becomes clear again. The human mind is the same. When you stop reacting, the mind returns to clarity. And from that clarity, everything becomes understandable. Neuroscience shows that when we are silent, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning and compassion, becomes more active. But during arguments, the amygdala, the emotional reaction center, flares up, impairing rational thinking. This is why silence is not missing the chance to speak, but preserving the chance to stay awake. The next morning, as the first sunlight turned the pine branches gold, Master Ryotan's student walked through the garden. He saw the bamboo by the courtyard bending in the wind, yet not breaking. The wind rose, the bamboo bowed low, then stood upright again, as if it had never weathered a storm at all. The master said softly, "The bamboo does not resent the wind for making it bend. It knows the wind is teaching it how to yield without breaking." Someone who is overlooked should not be angry, for that is a lesson in strength through softness, and that is the next step on the Zen path. After learning silence, we learn how to be flexible yet firm, humble yet strong, like bamboo, which bends in order to stand longer than the storm. Have you ever wondered why gentle, soft-spoken people are often seen as weak? Why, in this noisy world, those who yield, who listen, who know how to step back, so often end up on the losing side? We live in a time where strength is defined by how loud you are, by your ability to dominate. But in Zen teachings, there is a profound paradox. True strength does not lie in hardness, but in the ability to be soft. A bamboo stalk, though slender, can survive the fiercest storms because it knows how to bend with the wind instead of resisting it. The tall, proud trees are often the ones that break when the storm passes. Long ago, in the Seijo Mountains, where white clouds wrapped the peaks all year round, there was a small village resting quietly along the slope. The people there lived gently, befriending the bamboo forest and letting the mountain wind lull them to sleep each evening. In that village lived a young man named Kaito. He was strong, straightforward, and decisive in everything he did. To Kaito, living meant pushing forward, proving yourself, and showing the world that you were not someone to be looked down on. He believed that the winner was always the one who was toughest. Then one day, a storm swept up from the valley. The wind howled through the mountains, rain pounded on rooftops like urgent drums. All night long, the village heard the bamboo groaning and swaying, but strangely, not a single stalk broke. The next morning, when the clouds lifted, Kaito saw something that stunned him. The largest old tree in the village, the one he had proudly called, "Just like me," so strong no storm can bring it down, now lay toppled across the ground, its roots torn from the earth. Kaito stood in silence. Everything he believed about strength suddenly felt shaky. Anger and confusion rose in him. Unable to bear his questions, he decided to go up the mountain to ask Zen Master Tenzai for answers. When he met the master, Kaito bowed and spoke in a tightly held voice. "Master, why is it that something as soft as bamboo survives, while something as strong as that old tree is knocked down?" The Zen master did not answer right away. He led Kaito to the back garden. The mountain wind still blew gently through the bamboo grove, making the slender stalks bend gracefully with each passing gust, as if they were dancing. "Look closely," the master said. "The bamboo does not see the wind as an enemy. It does not try to fight it. It understands that the wind has come to teach it how to bow without breaking." He lightly touched a stalk of bamboo trembling in the breeze. True strength is not in a hard outer shell, but in the ability to bend in the face of conditions. The old tree fell because it did not know how to bow. The bamboo stands because it knows how to live with the wind. The master bent down and pointed to the bamboo roots gripping deep into the moist soil. When the storm comes, the bamboo does not stand stiff to challenge it. It bends down to protect its roots. Bending is not surrender. It is wisdom about timing and limits. Kaito stood quietly. Those words touched corners of his heart he had never looked at before. He thought about his own life. For so many years he had tried to prove himself, to fight, to stand rigid against every judgment. Yet what he received in return was only exhaustion and pain. Finally, he asked, "Master, when others look down on me, should I just keep enduring it?" Zen Master Tenzai smiled, a smile as light as the first crescent moon. "A wise person does not endure just to suffer. They endure in order to transform. Patience means knowing when to stop, when to let go, and when to walk away. If you keep trying to prove your worth to people who are not clear enough to see it, you are abandoning yourself in a pointless battle." The wind rustled through the bamboo again. The sound of the leaves was like a reminder, sometimes to remain standing, what we need is not more force, but more softness. In the Buddha's teachings, softness is the wisdom of someone who truly understands impermanence. All things change. Nothing stays the same forever. Those who cling rigidly to right, wrong, black, white are bound to suffer. because life will never obey their expectations. The soft person is the one who knows how to go with conditions, flowing with circumstances without being carried away by them. Master Tenzai taught, "The tree does not resent the wind for making it lean. It knows the wind is teaching it how to bend without breaking." In the Dharma, this is called the virtue of gentle patience, not the kind of patience that suppresses, but a clear patience that comes from understanding that everything has its causes and conditions. Like water, which looks weak, yet can carve its way through stone, while the stone, which seems solid, is slowly worn down by time. In modern psychology, this ability is called emotional flexibility. It is the capacity to adjust the mind when hurt, to avoid reacting impulsively, and instead adapt and stay in balance. Studies show that people with flexible minds are more at peace, less anxious, and recover more quickly after difficulties. In the language of Zen, softness is the way of the strong. Rigidity is the sign of a mind still afraid, not yet wise enough to relax. If you have ever been underestimated or looked down on, remember, that is not an insult, but an invitation to learn the art of softness. Those who belittle you may not yet have the wisdom to understand, but in that exact moment, you are being tested to see whether you have enough peace not to fall into reaction. In life, everyone wants to be strong, but the truly strong person is the one who can step back without resentment, yield in a conversation without feeling damaged, and be silent without feeling weak. Soft does not mean defeated. Soft means knowing when to let go, when to stand firm, and when to let the wind pass without letting it carry you away. A study from Harvard University once showed that people who can accept and adjust during conflict have 68% better mental health than those who respond with rigidity or argument. Buddhism has taught this for thousands of years. When the heart softens, old karma begins to dissolve. Because hatred cannot end hatred, only compassion and patience can transform it. When someone insults you, try simply listening through one deep breath. The breath is the wind, and in each breath, you are learning how to bend, not so the wind can knock you down, but so it can pass by. The next morning, when the storm had passed, the ground was soaked, but the bamboo behind the temple still stood. Raindrops clung to the leaves, reflecting the first light of the sun. The student stepped into the courtyard and bowed to the master. He smiled, the smile of someone who has understood that real strength does not need to show off. It only needs to be present in silence. Master Tenzai said softly, "In stillness, you will see. When we need others to validate us, we have already given them the power to define us. Non-self does not mean losing yourself. It means seeing yourself in everything without depending on anyone." That insight opened a new level of Zen practice, where the student began a deeper journey, learning not to let others' judgments define him and living freely in his own true nature. Have you ever realized that most human suffering doesn't come from not being loved, but from wanting to be seen in the way we desire? We hurt because others don't understand us, because they forget to appreciate us, because they misjudge us. But deeper than that, we suffer because we still believe our worth lives in someone else's eyes. Zen teaches, when you need others to validate you, you have already given them the power to define you. This is a paradox that anyone walking the path of awakening must face. The ego craves recognition, while the meditative mind only wants to be seen without being identified with. Long ago, in the misty mountains of Kiyama, there lived a young painter named Hiro. He lived wholeheartedly for beauty, painting for the village, for children, for elders. Painting to the rhythm of the mountains, the bamboo groves, and the flow of life. But even though he gave so much, very few people truly remembered him. A single compliment could make his whole day bright. A single criticism could pierce him, as if someone had pulled his heart out. One evening, as the sun sank behind the mountain peak, a wealthy merchant passed through the village. He glanced briefly at Hiro's painting on display and muttered just 2 words. Lacks soul. Only 2 words. Yet Hiro's entire world collapsed. He tore his paintings, burned his small, colorful home, and wandered into the night. He climbed the mountain in despair to seek Zen Master Tenzai, whom villagers believed could see into the hidden depths of the human heart. Hiro knelt before the master, his voice cracked with pain. Master, I painted with all my heart, but they say my work has no soul. How do I prove my true worth? The Zen master didn't answer immediately. The wind brushed across the temple courtyard, making the small wind chime ring softly like a breath. The master walked to a tree near the pond, picked up a fallen yellow leaf, and asked, "Is this leaf beautiful?" Hiro looked closely and nodded. "Yes, but it's about to fall, master." The master smiled. "It is beautiful because it is about to fall. This leaf doesn't wait for approval, nor does it fear criticism. It simply lives its nature. Green when it is time to be green, yellow when it is time to be yellow, and falling when it is time to fall." Then the master looked directly into Hiro's eyes. "If you live only to be acknowledged, you become a leaf desperately clinging to a branch, forgetting that its true nature belongs to the wind." Hiro froze. Suddenly, the fog inside him seemed to shift. The master continued, "People can only see in your painting what their own hearts contain. If their hearts are shallow, they cannot touch your depth. If you measure your value through others' eyes, you will never truly see yourself." He then handed Hiro a bamboo ladle and told him to fetch water from the stream. When the ladle was full, the master tilted it so half the water flowed out. "What do you see?" Hiro answered, "The water is lost." "No," the master replied. "It is still here. It only moved elsewhere." He placed the ladle on the ground. Yourself is like this. When you let go of the need to be seen, praised, or validated, you do not disappear. You simply flow into life, into each stroke you paint, into each moment you live. That is non-self, the place where value doesn't need to be proven, but shines naturally. The mountain wind blew again. The leaf in the master's hand drifted gently onto the water, twirled once, and blended into the pond. A reminder that true beauty never needs to be judged. In Buddhism, non-self does not mean losing yourself. It means seeing clearly that your true nature is not separate from all things. The self we cling to is merely a collection of memories, emotions, labels, and roles, all of which constantly change. Because we cling to this constructed self, we fear criticism, fear being forgotten, fear not being acknowledged. When we need others to validate us, we hand our happiness to them, and when they turn away, we immediately lose our direction. Zen teaches us to look inward. Who is the one wanting to be seen? Who is the one in pain because they aren't acknowledged? If we look long enough, we will see that this person is just an idea created by the ego. In modern psychology, this corresponds to ego dissolution, a state where the sense of self expands, the ego softens, and one feels deeply connected with everything. Studies show that long-term meditators are far less dependent on praise or criticism. They experience more peace and happiness because they no longer need a perfect self to exist. The Buddha taught, "There is no me and there is no other. There is only consciousness manifesting in countless forms." When we understand this, we stop blaming, stop resenting, stop trying to make anyone understand us. We simply live fully, sincerely, freely. In modern life, people get easily trapped in the digital ego, where everything is measured by likes, comments, and recognition. We ask, who am I if no one likes, praises, or notices me? But in the Dharma, the real question is, who am I when I do not need anyone to praise me? Non-self doesn't make you passive. It makes you free in your own role. You still love, you still work, you still give. But you are no longer bound by the expectation of being acknowledged. A Stanford University study once found, people who work with a mindset of service, without seeking recognition, are twice as happy and twice as creative as those who work for attention. This shows that true freedom comes not from being seen, but from no longer needing to be seen. So when someone doesn't understand you, smile gently. When your efforts go unnoticed, remain silent. Because what you do with a pure heart is already recorded by the universe. The world is simply not quiet enough yet to see it. The next morning, Hiro awoke and saw a bead of dew on a lotus petal outside his window. It was so clear that he couldn't tell whether it was water or light. In that moment, he understood. When you no longer need to prove yourself, you become transparent like that drop of dew. The master said, "Compassion does not mean tolerating disrespect. A wise person opens their heart, but still has boundaries. That is compassion with wisdom, not weakness." And so, the next chapter of Hiro's journey began, learning how to love without losing himself, like the lotus that blooms in the mud, yet never lets the mud stain its fragrance. There is a strange paradox in life. The kinder a person is, the more easily they are hurt. Many people mistakenly believe that compassion means always enduring, always tolerating, always forgiving, without condition. But compassion does not mean allowing others to trample over your heart. Long ago, deep in the green mountains of Satori, there was an ancient temple nestled beneath a forest of pine. Living there was a Zen master named Ensho, a man whose very presence could make one's heart feel lighter. He was known for wisdom as deep as an underground spring. But what people admired even more was his boundless kindness. Anyone who came to the temple, farmers, merchants, or weary travelers, was greeted with a gentle smile and a warm cup of tea. One early winter afternoon, a traveler named Rio arrived and asked to stay for a few days. He was someone whose heart had been so deeply betrayed that it felt covered in ash. Fearful, suspicious, and guarded. At first, Zen Master Ensho treated Ryo as if he were a lost son. He let him stay, shared simple meals with him, and taught him breathing practices to ease his heavy heart. But the more love Ryo received, the more selfish he became. He grabbed the best food, shouted at the other disciples, and justified it by saying, "Master Ensho loves me the most. All of you should give way to me." The older students began to feel resentful, but Master Ensho remained silent. He watched without judging, as if waiting for something to ripen. Then one day, while rushing into the meditation hall, Ryo knocked over an ancient teacup the temple had preserved for generations. It shattered into pieces. Instead of apologizing, he blamed others, insisting they had stood in the wrong place. The next morning, the Zen master called Ryo to him. He placed a different cup in front of him. Old, cracked, but still whole. "Look at this cup," the master said. "What do you see?" Ryo shrugged. "It's cracked. It can't be used anymore." Master Ensho nodded. His eyes were gentle, but his voice softened. "That's right. A cracked cup cannot hold water, just like a heart full of old wounds cannot hold love, no matter how much others try to pour into it." Ryo lowered his head. Something stung inside him, but the master continued. "Compassion does not mean holding on to everything, even the things that hurt us. If we keep a cracked cup, the water will leak away, and we will have nothing left to offer anyone." The master placed a hand on Ryo's shoulder, not in anger, but like a breeze touching the skin. "When you truly appreciate a kind heart, you will understand why today I must send you down the mountain." That day, Zen Master Ensho walked Ryo to the temple gate. No anger, no harsh words, only the stillness of someone who understood the limits of compassion. Ryo stood watching the master disappear into the mist. In that silence, he felt, for the first time, a real sense of loss. Not because he was abandoned, but because he had squandered something precious he once received. Years passed. Ryo wandered from place to place, learning how to live again with his old wounds. One day, he stopped in a small, distant village and built a tiny hut. On the simple altar, he placed one thing, a cracked cup, not to worship, not as decoration, but to remind himself every day, compassion is not endless. Compassion is only complete when paired with wisdom, knowing when to pour water and when to release the cup that can no longer hold anything. In Buddhism, this is called compassion with wisdom. Compassion is the open heart. Wisdom is the ability to know where to stop. Without wisdom, compassion becomes weakness. Without compassion, wisdom becomes cold. Many people fall into extremes. Some close their hearts too tightly, while others open them too widely. Those who close themselves become lonely. Those who open too much get hurt easily. But those who truly understand the way know how to open the heart with awareness. Zen does not teach us to shut the heart. It teaches us to guard the heart, like a lamp in the wind. Without a cover, the flame will go out. But if covered too tightly, the light cannot shine. Compassion is the light. Wisdom is the lamp cover. Only when both work together can we shine for others while keeping our flame alive. In modern psychology, This is known as healthy boundaries. Someone with boundaries isn't selfish. They simply know their limits so they don't get swept into others' negativity. They can listen, but they don't let someone else's pain become their own, the Buddha taught. Those who know how to protect themselves are the ones who know how to protect others. If we always endure and let others wound us while calling it compassion, that is not the way. True compassion doesn't make us weak. It makes us calm. When someone insults us, instead of staying silent out of fear, we stay silent out of understanding, knowing that anger is just a passing cloud. When someone takes advantage of our kindness, we do not react with resentment. We step back with mindfulness, knowing that everyone creates their own karma. In the research of Dr. Brené Brown, those with the deepest compassion are also those with the clearest boundaries. They understand that kindness cannot be sustained if we are exhausted. To love others, we must first ensure we do not let ourselves be harmed to the point of losing faith in people. Many say, "If I don't endure it, won't people think I'm selfish?" But Zen masters often say, truth does not need to be proven, only lived. Living within your limits is living honestly with your own heart. That evening, in the temple courtyard, the Zen master sat by the lotus pond. Moonlight reflected on the still water, as calm as the mind of one who truly understands. A disciple approached and hesitantly asked, "Master, I feel invisible in the eyes of others." The master smiled. "If their mirror is covered in dust, you cannot reflect anything. Don't try to clean someone else's mirror. Keep your own mirror bright." The disciple bowed, a tear falling quietly into the moonlit pond, and so began the next chapter, a story about inner light, about how one rediscovers their worth in a world full of judgment. Compassion is not tolerating disrespect. A wise person opens their heart, but keeps their boundaries. Keep your heart pure, but do not let it become a place where others dump their unresolved pain, because kindness without wisdom only leads us to forgetting ourselves. Have you ever felt invisible in your own life? You speak, yet no one listens. You give, yet no one notices. And then, in the quietest moments, you ask yourself, does my worth even exist if no one acknowledges it? It is a very human question, and also a doorway into Zen. People often live like mirrors, reflecting whatever image others want to see. When praised, we shine. When criticized, we dim. Our whole lives are spent polishing someone else's mirror, hoping they will finally see us clearly. But the more we try, the more we lose ourselves. Long ago, on the mist-covered slopes of Mount Hanrei, there was an ancient temple. Inside it stood a room where anyone who entered would walk softly, as if afraid to disturb something sacred. In that room hung an old bronze mirror. Locals said it did not reflect the face on the outside. It reflected the soul of the one standing before it. One morning, Zen Master Hoshin brought a young disciple into the room. The room was dim, with only a thin ray of sunlight slipping through the window, touching the mirror like the gaze of time. "Look into the mirror," the master said, "and tell me what you see." The disciple stared for a long time before replying, "I see my face, but it's very faint, master." "Why is it faint?" the master asked. "Maybe the mirror is covered in dust." Hoshin nodded gently. saying nothing more. He picked up a soft cloth and wiped the mirror. With each stroke, the dust slowly disappeared. The disciple's face grew clearer, brighter. The boy lowered his head and asked, "Master, why are you cleaning the mirror?" The master smiled. "To show you that when your mind is covered in dust, you can't see yourself either." The disciple hesitated for a moment, then whispered, "But I don't understand. The dust isn't mine. Other people are the ones who fail to see me." The master set down the cloth and looked at him with eyes as deep as an autumn lake. If their mirror is covered in dust, no matter how hard you try to reflect, it's useless. Not because you lack brightness, but because their mirror is no longer clear. "So, it's not my fault." No one is at fault. There are simply people whose inner mirrors have become too clouded to see the truth. They stepped out onto the temple veranda. On a lotus petal nearby rested shimmering drops of morning dew. The master pointed, "See that dew? When the sun rises, it will disappear. But the flower does not lose its beauty because of it. Your value is the same. It does not depend on the eyes looking at you, but on the light within you." The disciple quietly cried. For years he had chased the eyes of others. Only in that moment did he understand. Light does not need to be named to shine. From that day on, he stopped seeking recognition. He lived simply, sweeping the courtyard each morning, cooking for the community, replacing the oil lamps in the meditation hall. Every task became a way to keep his inner mirror clear. A year later, a visitor came to the temple. He saw a young man splitting firewood in the courtyard, gentle-faced and calm-eyed. The visitor asked, "Where is Master Hoshin's young disciple?" The master smiled and pointed at the young man. "He is right there. But perhaps you didn't recognize him. When a person stops trying to be seen, the light within them softens so naturally that others cannot look away." The Buddha taught that all suffering begins when we lose our connection to our own clear nature. Those who seek external validation hand over the right to define themselves to others. The dusty mirror in the story is a symbol of a mind covered by ignorance and dependence. When we live for praise or attention, we lose our freedom. When we fear being forgotten or rejected, we are seeing ourselves through someone else's mirror, unaware that their mirror is full of dust. In Zen, self-illumination is not a proud light. It is the quiet knowing that I exist. I am whole. My worth does not depend on being seen. Like a candle at night, it does not ask, "Is anyone watching me?" It shines simply because its nature is light. Modern psychology calls this self-objectification, when a person turns themselves into an object to be evaluated. A study by Dr. Kristen Neff found that those who practice self-compassion have far greater confidence and peace than those who seek external praise. Because they understand, true worth does not need proof, only presence. In daily life, we unconsciously measure ourselves through the eyes of others. When someone praises us, we glow. When someone criticizes us, we shrink. But living this way is exhausting. The Buddha taught, The wise do not seek light outside themselves. The wise realize the light already within. This does not mean becoming arrogant. It means no longer needing to prove that we deserve love. When someone cannot see us, we do not resent them. They simply see with the level of awareness they have. As for us, if we keep the mind clear, even unseen, we can still illuminate our own path. In therapy, this is called self-validation. The ability to acknowledge your own feelings, pain, and worth without depending on anyone else. It is the foundation of inner freedom and awakening. When someone learns this, they are no longer afraid of being forgotten, because true light never disappears. It is only momentarily obscured at night, when the wind rustles through the bamboo forest and the leaves brush against each other like a soft reminder. Every soul is a mirror. The only difference is who chooses to clean it each day. A seeker eventually learns, no one belongs to anyone. Only karma and conditions belong together. When conditions dissolve, we do not truly lose someone. We simply return them to their place in the flow of cause and effect. And when we understand this, we stop clinging and stop running. We simply walk on, like the light of a lamp in the wind, needing no recognition, yet bright enough to guide ourselves. Keep your mirror clear. That is the way of mindfulness. And when others cannot see you, do not dim yourself, because true light does not need to be seen. It only needs to be lit. Perhaps in life, the thing that hurts the most is not losing someone, but still loving them while having to let go. There was someone who once stayed with you for a long time. Someone who laughed with you, cried with you, and made promises with you. But then one morning, they walked away without a single farewell. You stood there watching, your heart cracking, whispering to yourself, why did it turn out this way? Why did the hand that held mine yesterday turn its back today? That is a question everyone has whispered to themselves at least once in the dark, because we often mistake emotions for something that can be kept by willpower. But like a river, water doesn't flow because we want it to. It flows because it is its nature. Long ago, among the misty mountains of Hakuji, there lived a Zen master named Master Ryonin. He was known for his stillness and compassion, as deep as the bottom of an autumn lake. One early winter morning, when the wind carried the cold from the peaks, a woman named Mika came to the temple seeking ordination. Mika had once been the wife of a wealthy merchant, but after her husband passed away, her children were no longer the ones she had lovingly raised. They fought over money, argued endlessly, and eventually abandoned her in an empty house. The wealth she once had could not save her from the feeling of being left behind. Carrying a wounded heart, she sought Master Ryonin. He accepted her as a disciple. From that day on, each morning, Mika quietly swept the yard, cleaned the meditation hall, boiled water for tea. She worked with reverence, never complained, never spoke of the past. But inside her, an invisible thread still tied her heart to an old memory. One day, while washing dishes by the stream, sunlight glimmered on something lying beneath the water. She bent down to pick it up. It was her wedding ring, once a symbol of love and peace. No one knew how long it had been in the stream, but seeing it made her chest tighten. Mika sat by the water for a long time. The stream flowed beneath her feet, and memories flowed through her mind. Then she brought the ring to Master Ryonen. "Master, this is the last keepsake of my life. What should I do? Keep it or let it go?" The master looked at the clear stream, his voice low like wind passing through bamboo. "If you keep it out of love, it will make you remember. If you keep it out of fear of forgetting, it will make you suffer. But if you keep it with gratitude, it will become a pearl in your heart." Mika stared at the ring trembling in her hand. She whispered, "But if I let it go, would that mean I am betraying the one who passed away?" The master shook his head with the gentle smile of someone who has understood life. "Letting go is not forgetting. Letting go is no longer demanding anything more from that memory. When your heart is light, love can return to its true nature." Mika stood up and walked into the middle of the stream. She placed the ring into the water. The current carried it away, the gold flashing beneath the surface before disappearing into the depths. In that moment, she suddenly felt her heart loosen. No more tightening, no more holding on. Only a strange, quiet peace, soft as the wind touching the bamboo behind the temple. Years later, when Master Ryonen passed away, people found an old slip of paper in Mika's room. On it was written, "The ring is not lost. It simply returned to where it belongs, just like everyone who has ever passed through your life." And from then on, anyone who heard her story understood. Some things are truly beautiful only when we are peaceful enough to let them go. The story is not only about love or loss, it is about the nature of karma and conditions. The Buddha taught, "No one comes to us by accident. Every meeting is the result of countless intertwined causes and conditions. Those who come bring us a lesson. Those who leave take with them their own karma, and sometimes a piece of ours. No one belongs to anyone, because we are all only walking together for part of a journey. When we suffer because someone left, we are not hurting from losing that person. We are hurting from losing the role we once played in that story. We fear emptiness, fear being forgotten, so we cling to old images. But as the Zen master said, a leaf does not fall because it hates the branch, but because the season has changed. In psychology, this is called grief attachment, the emotional binding to something that has already passed. When we cannot accept change, the mind resists reality, and that resistance itself becomes suffering. In Zen, letting go is not cutting off. It is returning everything to its rightful place in cause and effect. Those who leave are not gone. They simply change form in our lives, from presence to memory, from voice to silence. And in that silence, if we are calm enough, we begin to hear another sound, the sound of our own footsteps on a new path. In modern life, people fear loneliness so much that they stay in relationships where the connection has already faded. We think letting go means losing. But in truth, letting go is stopping the act of hurting ourselves. The Buddha taught, when conditions come, receive them. When conditions go, let them go. Be grateful to those who walked into your life, for they arrived when you needed to learn something. If someone leaves you, Try to look with mindful eyes. They are not taking the good away. They are taking away the karma that has been completed. Psychological research also shows that the human brain needs about 90 days to regain emotional balance after a breakup. If one practices meditation, breathing, and emotional self-observation, this means letting go is a process of self-healing, not a sign of weakness, but a manifestation of understanding. With daily practice, we begin to see letting go does not make us lose. It makes us lighter. Letting go does not make us forget. It makes us see clearly. And letting go does not kill love. It returns love to its pure, unconditional form. When night falls, Master Hoshin stepped onto the temple veranda. Moonlight spread across the old roof tiles, and the distant bell echoed like a whisper of the universe. He said softly, "Every separation is another kind of meeting. Those who leave teach us how to stay. Those who stay teach us how to let go." Master Enshu once said, "When someone leaves you, thank them, for they take away the karma you no longer need to carry." Letting go is not losing. It is being freed from the weight of ignorance. And when we understand this, we no longer fear losing anyone, because we know that in the flow of causes and conditions, everything is transformation. No one ever truly disappears. Outside, the wind gently stirred the bamboo. A single leaf fell onto the surface of the pond, forming ripples that spread outward, then dissolved into stillness. Just like every meeting and every parting, temporary ripples on the calm water of the mind. No one belongs to anyone. When conditions arise, we walk together. When conditions dissolve, we place our palms together in gratitude, because the most precious thing is not who stays with us, but what we have learned from the moments when people leave. There is a paradox that every one of us has experienced. When someone leaves us, we often feel as if we've lost. But sometimes, that very moment is when we are finally set free from what no longer belongs to us. In life, people tend to cling tightly to relationships, jobs, or roles they believe define them, the things they think. If I lose this, I will no longer be myself. But often, the very things we try hardest to keep are the ropes strangling the soul. Long ago, in the Shiro Valley, where maple forests blazed red every autumn, there stood an old temple resting between the sound of flowing streams and distant mountain winds. One morning, Zen Master Enshu was sweeping the courtyard when he met a weary traveler. On the traveler's back was a huge backpack, so heavy it tilted his entire frame backward. Sweat soaked the back of his shirt, and each step seemed to drag the weight of his past behind him. He bowed and asked for water. Master Enshu poured him a cup of warm tea. Seeing his exhaustion, the master gently asked, "It seems your journey is very heavy, isn't it?" The traveler sighed. "Yes. In this backpack are everything I've ever had. Old letters, memories, belongings of someone who passed away, things I don't use anymore, but I can't bear to throw them away. They're a part of my life." The master smiled kindly. "Do you realize you're traveling slower and suffering more because of it?" The traveler nodded. "I do. But if I let them go, I'm afraid I'll lose a part of my memories." Master Enshu stood up and led him behind the temple, where a river rushed through moss-covered stones. The air carried the cool scent of maple leaves. The master picked up a small stone and handed it to him. "Try dropping this into the water." The traveler did as he was told. The stone fell, sank quickly, and disappeared. The river's surface returned to stillness, as if nothing had fallen at all. The master asked, "What do you see?" The traveler looked at the shimmering water. "Master, the water doesn't hold on to the stone." "Exactly," the master said. "The water doesn't cling to the stone, so it continues to flow. As for the stone, if it wishes to stay, it can only remain at the bottom forever, never meeting sunlight again." The words left the traveler speechless. Master Enshu continued, "You are like the river. Every past relationship, every heavy memory, every unhealed wound, each one is a stone in your backpack. The more you keep, the slower your journey becomes, and the more tired your heart is. Letting go is not forgetting. It is knowing what should be carried forward, and what has reached the time to be set down." The traveler sat by the river for a long time. Then, as if making a decision years in the making, he opened his backpack. He took out each item: yellowed letters, an old handkerchief, a photograph with faded corners, memories that brought both tenderness and pain. He placed each one into the water. The river carried them away. Sunlight reflected on the surface like the last fragments of memories dissolving, and then, for the first time in years, he heard the river sing. No longer drowned out by his weary breath, no longer muted by the weight on his back. Only the sound of flowing water, clear, soft, and peaceful. Before leaving the temple, the traveler bowed deeply to Master Enshu. The master rested a hand on his shoulder and said, "Walk lightly." One who knows how to let go is one who begins to understand liberation. Letting go does not take away what is precious. It allows you to see the road ahead with a heart no longer bound. He walked down the maple-covered trail. The backpack was lighter. His steps were lighter. And for the first time in his life, he himself was lighter. In Buddhism, karma is not only what we do. It is also every thread of consciousness we have not released. Every time we are angry, afraid, or attached, we place another stone into our karmic backpack. A broken relationship, someone walking away. What seems like loss is often just a condition reaching completion, a karma fulfilled. Master Enshu called it parting karma, when two minds once owed each other lessons and now must separate to grow. Those who leave take their part. Those who stay keep their lesson. No one owes anyone. Transformation simply continues. According to modern psychology, holding on to the past or to people who are gone increases stress and depression due to dopamine imbalance. The brain cannot tolerate emptiness, but when we learn acceptance and letting go, the prefrontal cortex becomes more active, giving us calm and clarity. That is why meditators often have peaceful eyes. They're not blind to the past. They've simply stopped staring too far behind it. The Buddha taught, one who still clings to gain and loss, coming and going, has not yet understood the nature of impermanence. Letting go is not losing. It is choosing wakefulness over suffering, for suffering does not come from others leaving. but from our refusal to release what has already ended. If you have ever lost a person, a job, or a place in life, pause and look closely. What you lost, was it ever truly yours? Or was it just a condition pausing so you could learn something new? Letting go does not weaken us. It makes us lighter and clearer. When we dare to step away from what has expired in our lives, we make space for what is new to arise. Like an old room, if it stays full of old things, light cannot enter. Our mind is the same. Only when we clear out emotional clutter can we hear the call of the present moment. Neuroscience calls this neural pruning, the process where the brain lets go of old connections to form new networks, helping us adapt to reality. Just like in meditation, we don't erase memories. We let them rest, like leaves falling in their proper season. A person who understands the Dharma doesn't ask, "Why did they leave me?" They ask, "What in me needs to be learned from their leaving?" When the question changes, the energy changes. And when the energy changes, pain transforms into wisdom. Late at night, Master and Shu stepped onto the temple veranda. Moonlight shone on the surface of the pond, bright enough to reflect every branch. He said softly, "The moonlight does not choose where to shine, but only those who open their windows receive its glow." In the same way, when we release the need for recognition, we naturally shine, not to be seen, but because that light is our nature. If someone does not receive it, keep walking. Light does not need witnesses. Outside, the wind carried the long echo of the temple bell. The sound dissolved into silence, like a gentle reminder. When someone understands the art of letting go, they no longer ask, "Why did I lose?" They simply smile and say, "I have enough conditions to keep moving forward." Letting go is not loss. It is the highest form of wisdom. The truly strong are not those who hold on the longest, but those who set things down at the right time, because hands clenched tightly around the past will never be free to receive the present. Have you ever noticed that the more you crave recognition, the more you lose yourself? People often think that light only has meaning when someone sees it. But there is another kind of light, the kind that doesn't need an audience and still shines brightly in the dark. From childhood, we are taught that our worth depends on how others see us. When we're praised, we're happy. When we're criticized, we're sad. When we're noticed, we feel we are something. When we're ignored, we feel we've lost something. Our whole life, we go looking for a mirror in other people's eyes and forget that the real lamp is inside our own heart. Long ago, in a small village nestled beside a bamboo forest, there was an old monastery where Zen Master Tendo lived. Not far from the temple was a deep well where villagers came to draw water each morning. Everything there was quiet and peaceful. Until one night, that night, the sky was torn open by thunder and lightning. Wind roared through the bamboo, and rain poured down like a waterfall. The whole village was swallowed in darkness and the howl of the storm. When the sky finally calmed, people discovered something strange. In that deep well, there was a lamp still burning. Even though the water had risen all the way to the rim, the news spread quickly through the region. "There's a magic lamp that doesn't go out, even in a great storm." people flocked to see it. They all leaned over the well, peering inside, wondering how light could exist in the middle of such chaos. When asked, Master Tendo simply smiled gently. "It's just a lamp I had my disciple light and place inside a small lantern. It doesn't shine so others can see it. It shines because it is light." People were even more curious. A young disciple stepped forward and asked, "Master, why can that lamp keep shining like that, even when no one is praising it or watching it?" The Zen master looked at him and replied, "Because it does not burn to be acknowledged. It burns because its nature is fire." Then he looked deeply into the disciple's eyes, as if seeing straight through what the boy was trying to hide. "And what about you? Do you do good so someone will know, or because your heart truly wants to?" The disciple lowered his head, his voice growing small. "I don't really know yet." The master spoke slowly. "Then, remember this. A light that only exists when someone is looking at it will go out the moment they turn away. True light does not depend on the observer." After that day, the disciple changed. He no longer tried to show anyone how hard he was working. He quietly swept the courtyard every morning, wiped the Buddha statues, lit incense at the altar, without needing anyone to acknowledge him. And strangely, the less people noticed him, the more he radiated a peace that everyone could feel, even if they didn't know where it came from. One day, a visitor came to the temple and asked the Zen master, "I see that young disciple over there seems very different. Gentle, radiating calm. But strangely, I've never heard anyone talk about him." Master Tendo laughed. "That's because those who truly shine don't make others squint." He glanced toward the old well, where the water was as still as a mirror. Their light is not blinding, not showy, not loud. It is gentle and steady, like the lamp at the bottom of the well on a stormy night. The story kept spreading through the village, not to praise the disciple, but to remind people that true light never needs to prove itself. It only needs to live according to its nature. And in that quietness, people began to see what is brightest. The story of the lamp in the well is a metaphor for inner freedom, the state of someone no longer controlled by praise and blame, gain and loss. In the Buddha's teachings, this is the stage of clear selflessness, anattapanya, when a person realizes they are not the image in other people's eyes, but a part of a greater source of light. Modern psychology calls this self-acceptance, accepting oneself without conditions. According to research by Dr. Kristen Neff, people with high levels of self-compassion have more stable mental health and are about 40% more resilient to criticism than those who seek recognition from the outside, because they know no one can truly understand them completely, and no one can give them a sense of worth they haven't first recognized themselves. Master Tendo didn't teach his disciple how to make others see him. He taught him how to become the light itself. Just as the sun doesn't need a mirror to know it shines, a wise person doesn't need praise to know they are worthy. In Zen, there is a saying, when there is no one left to prove anything to, the mind becomes transparent. Inner freedom is not about living apart from the world, but about living in the world without losing oneself, working, loving, giving, yet not being dependent on other people's reactions. In modern life, people easily confuse self-worth with attention. A picture with many likes, a compliment in front of a crowd, makes us believe we have value. But when everyone is silent, we suddenly feel empty. The Buddha taught, the wise do not seek light outside. The wise recognize the light already present in the heart. Think about it. A lamp does not ask why the night is dark. It simply shines, and because of that, the night becomes less dark. If you do the right thing, even when no one sees it, the universe still records it. If you love sincerely, even when no one responds, your heart still grows. Modern psychology shows that when people focus on intrinsic value instead of evaluated value, the nervous system is less stressed, cortisol levels decrease, and the heartbeat becomes more stable, a sign of emotional freedom. Letting go of the need for recognition does not mean becoming numb or isolated, but knowing you are moving in the right direction even when no one applauds, because in truth, the light of an awakened person doesn't need a crowd. It only needs an honest heart. The next morning, as the sun rose over the mountains, the Zen master said to his disciple, "You are like a pebble dropping into a pond. From you, waves ripple across the whole surface. When you learn to value yourself, that energy spreads and touches everyone around you. Self-respect creates a resonance of peace." The disciple bowed, looked at the light reflecting on the water, and smiled, because now he understood. No one needs to see his light. He just has to live so that it doesn't go out. Outside, the wind gently stirred the bamboo, sounding like the breath of the earth. Everything seemed to repeat one simple truth. When a person no longer runs after recognition, every step they take becomes a walking meditation in this universe. Inner freedom does not come from being loved or praised, but from no longer depending on how others see us. True light does not need an audience, because it is not born to be seen. It is born to illuminate. Long ago, in an ancient temple nestled in a misty green valley, there was a large lake the villagers called the Eye of the Mountain. The lake was so deep, no one could measure its bottom, and so still that even the clouds above seemed submerged beneath its surface. When the wind stopped, the water became so smooth that people felt as if they were looking into another world, a giant mirror reflecting every subtle movement of the sky. One afternoon, as the last light of day fell gently onto the stones around the lake, the Zen master led his disciples there to teach what he called the lesson of the water. He told each of them to pick up a small pebble from the shore. Each pebble, the master said, is a thought, a feeling, or an attachment you carry in your heart. The disciples looked at the pebble in their hand, then at the water lying still as if asleep. The master continued, "Now throw it into the lake." The pebbles fell, making soft clicking sounds before disappearing beneath the surface. The water broke open. Ripples spread outward, swirling and colliding. In just a few seconds, the once still lake became distorted, reflecting the sky in scattered, broken fragments. The master stood silently watching the spreading ripples, then said, "Now wait for the lake to become calm again." Time passed slowly. A breeze slipped through the mountain pass, brushed the water, then dissolved. The last ripples thinned, softened, and vanished. What remained was a clear, still surface reflecting the mountains, the clouds, and the disciples so perfectly, it looked like a painting. The master looked at them and said, When you are preoccupied with trying to make others see your worth, your mind becomes like a lake full of waves. Everything becomes distorted. You can't see yourself clearly, and others can't see who you truly are. He paused, his voice warm and steady. Only when you become still, when you stop trying to prove anything, can the water of your mind become clear enough to reflect your true nature. A young disciple, still carrying traces of worry on his face, asked, "But Master, if I stop proving myself, won't people look down on me?" The Zen master bent down, picked up a leaf floating on the water, and held it up so that the sunset shone through its thin veins. "This leaf doesn't try to float. It floats because it is light, and a stone sinks on its own simply because it is heavy." He placed the leaf back on the surface and let it drift, then said, "True respect does not come from forcing yourself to stand tall in front of others. It comes from your inner quality, from your gentleness, your sincerity, and your clarity." His words fell into the young disciple's heart like a pebble sinking to the bottom of the lake, not making waves, but reaching the deepest place. The disciple felt something release inside: insecurity, silent competition, the fear of being judged, all dissolving like fading ripples. The lake before him lay still again, and in that moment, he understood the lesson. The stiller the mind, the brighter the person becomes, not because someone is watching, but because that brightness is already their true nature. The master's story is a metaphor for self-worth and inner calm. The lake represents the human mind. The pebble is the idea of I, of worth, of gain and loss. When we are driven by the need to be recognized, the mind becomes like rippling water. It cannot reflect anything honestly. The Buddha taught, when the mind is calm, the world is calm. When there is no disturbance within, others' judgments are nothing but wind passing over the surface of a lake. True self-worth is not pride, nor is it thinking you are above others. It is knowing your real value without needing anyone to confirm it. When the mind is steady, inner light naturally radiates, just as clear water reflects the moon effortlessly. Modern psychology calls this the resonance of self-worth. Studies show that when people feel enough, they no longer need to prove anything. But when they fear being underestimated, they become defensive, reactive, and lose their peace. In Zen, this state is called freedom amid praise and blame, like a lake that remains calm even when a stone falls. A person who understands the way stays bright even when life stirs with challenges. In everyday life, many people live like a lake full of waves. One criticism makes the heart flare up. One moment without attention feels like rejection. But think about it. If a mirror only reflects when someone stands before it, is it still a mirror when no one is there? A person's worth is not determined by how many admire them, but by how bright their heart remains when no one is watching. The Buddha taught, one who truly respects themselves does not need others to respect them. When we value ourselves, not with arrogance, but with awareness, we naturally radiate a presence that makes others feel at ease. A self-respecting person doesn't need to raise their voice, yet their steps carry weight. They don't need many words, yet what they say makes others pause. Neuroscience shows that a calm mind stabilizes alpha brainwaves, helping the body produce serotonin, a hormone of peace. This is why being near someone who is centered feels soothing, like sitting beside a still lake. You become quieter too. If tonight your heart feels full of waves because of a harsh word, a silence, or a sense of being undervalued, remember the lake in the story. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and imagine a small lake in your chest. With each breath, a gentle breeze settles the surface. Let the thoughts, words, and images of the day fall into it, like pebbles. Then simply observe. No judgment, no pushing away. Soon the water will grow still. In that stillness, you will see your true reflection. Not the person trying so hard to improve, but the peaceful nature that has always been there. This is inner freedom, the place where you no longer need anyone's recognition to feel enough. Your breath deepens, your heartbeat slows. Sleep arrives softly, like mist on the lake. The next morning, when the first sunlight touches the water, the master asked his disciples, "Do you hear anything?" They listened. Only the faint sound of water and a whisper of wind. The master smiled. That is the sound of a peaceful mind. When the waves inside you disappear, you can hear the voice of all things. A seeker then asked, "But what if I still love someone who has looked down on me?" The master replied, "Love them from afar. Love does not have to be close. Sometimes distance is the most compassionate form of love." The wind swept across the lake again, ripples forming, then fading, just like human emotions, arising, moving, and returning to stillness. And in that stillness, we begin to hear the voice of compassion, the beginning of another story waiting ahead. The lake is not clear because it tries to be. It is clear because it holds on to nothing. We are the same. When we release the need for recognition, the mind naturally brightens, and from that brightness, true self-worth is born. There is a paradox in love that almost everyone has to go through. The more we want to be close, the more we sometimes push the other person away. The tighter we try to hold on, the more love slips out of our hands like wet sand. We think love must mean being together, talking, touching, seeing each other every day. But perhaps the deepest kind of love is the one that knows how to stop at the right distance, where there is no more craving, only compassion. The Buddha taught, "Love without wisdom will give rise to suffering." Because when we love without awareness, we turn the other person into our place of refuge. When we love with wisdom, we allow them to be free. Think about it. A lamp cannot light anyone if it is placed so close that the flame is blown out. Only when it stands at the right distance can its light fill the whole room. We are the same. Sometimes, loving from afar is what keeps the flame in our heart burning longer. Back then, in a small village nestled at the foot of a mountain, there lived a woodcutter named Kayan. His life was as simple as the breath of the forest itself. Every morning, he carried his axe, crossed a small stream, and went into the woods to cut firewood. The stream was crystal clear, flowing gently over stone, and on the opposite bank, a young woman came to wash clothes every dawn. At first, it was only a nod in greeting, then soft smiles like early morning sunlight. Over time, just seeing the color of her clothes flicker through the mist made Kayan's heart skip a beat. He never said a word, But in his heart, that quiet tenderness had already taken root without him knowing. One spring morning, when dew still clung to every leaf and the smell of wet earth lingered in the air after a night of rain, Kayan arrived earlier than usual. He stood by the stream, gripping the handle of his axe, his heart pounding like that of a child. When the young woman set her basket of clothes down by the water's edge, he gathered all his courage. "I want to marry you, if you will say yes." She stopped what she was doing and looked up. Her eyes were neither surprised nor evasive. They held a gentle gaze, with a quiet sadness like an old song. "Thank you," she said softly. "But I have promised my parents I will stay and care for them until the end of their lives. I cannot go with you." Her refusal was very gentle. No blame, no pushing him away. But it was exactly that gentleness that made Kayan's heart ache, like a thin blade, not sharp, but cutting straight to the deepest part. From that day on, he still crossed the stream every morning. But instead of calling out, he simply stood silently, looking to the other side. She still washed clothes, still bent over the water just as before, as if nothing had ever passed between them. Kayan did not resent her. He only felt that the distance between the two banks of that stream had suddenly grown wider than an entire lifetime. Years went by. Time passed through the mountains the way it passes through people, quietly, but leaving its marks. Kayan was no longer young. His hair had begun to gray, his hands had grown rougher and more calloused. The stream still flowed, the mountain still stood. But his heart felt empty in a way he did not know how to name. Then one morning, he did not see the young woman at her usual spot. The stream still flowed, the stones were still damp with mist, but the familiar figure was gone. Villagers told him she had died from a sudden illness. After hearing this, Kayan simply sat down by the water, silent like a tree after rain. The stream flowed before him, indifferent and gentle at the same time. A single leaf fell, spun around a few times, then was carried away. He watched it drift farther and farther, until it was only a tiny dot on the wide surface of the water. And then, in that moment, something opened inside his heart, soft but clear, like a door that finally creaks after years of being closed. He silently said, as if speaking to himself, "So love is not about keeping someone close, but keeping them in the heart, the way this stream keeps flowing whether I stand here or not." From that day on, Kayan still crossed the stream every morning, but he no longer carried emptiness with him. He smiled at the flowing water, at the drifting leaves, at a memory that had never truly belonged to him, yet remained as beautiful as the last streak of sunlight at dusk. Because he understood now, to love without needing to possess, that is true freedom. Kayan's story is a mirror for a pure kind of love, love illuminated by wisdom. In Buddhism, every relationship between people is governed by karma and conditions, non-duyen. Anyone who comes into our life, even for a brief moment, brings a karmic gift, a reminder, a lesson, or an awakening. When the conditions end, they leave, not to punish us, but to complete their role in our journey of awakening. Love without wisdom becomes attachment, wanting to cling, to own, to control. Love with wisdom is called loving kindness. It means to care, but not to possess. Loving from afar is an expression of metta, loving kindness, and upekkha, equanimity. Loving kindness because we wish them peace wherever they are. Equanimity, because we no longer place them inside the prison of, "You must belong to me." The Buddha taught, when you love someone, let them be free. If they return, it is due to conditions. If they go, it is because those conditions are complete. Modern psychology also shows that those who can transform love into compassionate energy, love without demanding anything in return, tend to have more stable emotional and mental health. Because they are not controlled by emotional dependence, they live in gratitude for having loved, instead of in bitterness for having lost. When a Zen master says, "Love them from afar," he is teaching that distance does not kill love. It purifies it, like a drop of dew leaving a leaf, rising into the air and becoming a cloud. Love can also transform into compassion if we know how to let go at the right time. In today's world, many people are stuck in relationships that bring them pain. They know the other person does not truly cherish them, but still cannot stop loving. They know the relationship has run its course, but their heart keeps circling the same place. Why is that? Because people often confuse loving with being close. They forget that true love is wanting the other person to be happy, even if that happiness no longer includes us. Learning to love from a distance is not easy. It requires a mature heart, one that can release the want, yet keep the understanding. Just as a tree must accept shedding its leaves to deepen its roots, we too must learn to step away in love to nourish our compassion. According to a 2018 Stanford study, when people shift from a mindset of wanting to control to wanting to bless, the brain releases oxytocin, the hormone of connection and trust. A feeling of relief appears not because we forget the other person, but because we stop fighting reality. And so, loving from afar does not make us lose them. It helps us find ourselves again. If tonight your heart is still thinking of someone who has left, don't force yourself to forget, and don't reopen the wound. Sit quietly and close your eyes. Imagine them standing far away, surrounded by warm light. In your heart, say softly, "May you be safe, may you be loved, and may you walk your own path." Then take a deep breath in and breathe out slowly, so that each breath is a thread letting go. Each heartbeat a silent blessing. Do not try to cut them off, because letting go is not about severing. Letting go is giving love space to breathe and giving yourself permission to rest. Lie down like a still lake under the moon and let sleep become a quiet ritual of release. With your final breaths of the day, remember, loving from afar is still love, just without ownership. The next morning, the Zen master taught, when you know how to love from a distance, you begin to step into freedom. The disciple bowed his head, stayed silent for a while, then asked, "But what if I still feel empty when they leave, Master?" The Zen master smiled. Do not be afraid when someone no longer needs you. Like an old coat, if you keep wearing it forever, you will never discover a new one. What leaves is simply making space for what is more wholesome to arrive. The morning breeze stirred the leaves. A single yellow leaf fell onto the surface of the lake and drifted away quietly. The master watched it go and said softly, "When you can feel grateful for what has passed, every loss becomes a blessing." And that is the next chapter of this journey, when loss becomes a blessing. Love is not only about staying close. Sometimes it is about standing far enough away for the other to be free, and for your own heart to stop suffering. Because love is not meant to possess, it is meant to understand. And when there is understanding, love becomes compassion. Have you ever wondered why the people who leave us often create such an empty space that it hurts so much? Why do we humans, even though we understand that impermanence is the truth, still tremble when everything changes? We often think that losing something is the end, a punishment from fate. But in the eyes of a practitioner, loss is only another form of transformation. Like a fallen leaf that does not truly die, but simply returns to the earth to nourish the roots of the tree. The Buddha taught, nothing is truly lost, there is only the change of form. When we cling to people or things, the mind becomes heavy, like someone who keeps wearing an old worn-out coat, even though it is tight, torn, and no longer keeps them warm. They are afraid to throw it away, afraid of something new, afraid of emptiness. But because of that fear, they can no longer feel freedom, something that is originally the natural state of the mind. In Buddhism, letting go is not rejection. It is accepting the law of impermanence with gratitude. Because when we dare to let something leave, we open up space for something better to come in. The wise do not suffer because of loss. They simply smile when they understand that every departure carries a lesson. And that is the spirit in the teaching of Zen Master Kairo. Do not be afraid when someone no longer needs you. Like an old coat, if you keep wearing it forever, you will never see a new one. At the foot of a mist-covered mountain, there was a small temple, simple and peaceful. There, a young novice monk named Rin grew up under the guidance of Zen Master Kairo, a strict teacher with eyes as gentle as the morning sunlight. From the time he was little, Rin had only one dark brown robe. That robe had followed him for many years. The fabric had worn thin like cicada wings. The seams had come undone over and over, and he had sewn them back himself. He washed it, dried it, mended it, and kept wearing it, as if the robe had become part of his very breath. One day, when the rainy season was beginning, Zen Master Kairo called Rin to the veranda. He looked at the boy from head to toe, then gently asked, "Rin, the robe you're wearing is far too old. Why don't you ask for a new one?" Rin lowered his head, his voice as soft as the wind passing through leaves. "Master, I'm used to it. It still works." The Zen Master only smiled. He did not say anything more. The next morning, as the rain poured down on the tiled roof, the master brought Rin a new set of robes. The coarse gray fabric was soft and light, fitting his small frame perfectly. The smell of new cloth made the wooden room feel even warmer, but Rin simply placed the robe into an old wooden chest. Every day, he still wore the worn brown one. The way he held on to it was like clinging to a piece of the past, something safe and familiar. One early morning, when the sky had just cleared after a night of rain, Zen Master Kairo called Rin out to the courtyard. The old robe was hanging on a bamboo line, its hem fluttering in the wind, exposing all the patches and stitches. The master pointed at it. "Do you see this robe?" "Yes, master. It's torn, worn out, and the threads are rotting. But you still keep it because it's familiar, isn't that right?" Rin nodded slightly. The master spoke slowly, each word falling straight into the boy's heart. The familiar that you cling to is the very root of suffering. One day, it will no longer be enough to shield you from the rain and wind. And when that day comes, you will be angry with it, and then angry with yourself for not letting go sooner. Reen's voice trembled. I understand, Master, but if I let it go, I will feel empty. Cairo nodded, his eyes strangely gentle. Yes, Reen. That emptiness is exactly the doorway through which something new can enter. Just like the mind, if we do not dare to put down what is old, there will be no space for the light of wisdom to come in. Then the Zen master lifted the old robe, brought it to a dry tree branch in the courtyard, and hung it there. The wind blew, and the robe fluttered as if it wanted to fly. Do you see? He said. When the wind passes, the robe knows how to fly. When we let go, everything can become free. From that day on, Reen began wearing the new robe his master had given him. At first, he felt awkward, but day by day, the new robe wrapped around him like a new layer of skin, lighter, cleaner, and warmer. One morning, while sitting in meditation in the wooden room, he heard the wind outside. When he opened his eyes, he saw the old robe still hanging from the dry tree branch, swaying in the breeze. For the first time, he looked at it without regret. Instead, a small smile appeared on his lips, because in that moment, Reen understood. It was not only the robe that was learning how to rise, it was him. A little bit every day. One lighter step, one clearer mind, and one heart learning to let go in order to be free. The robe in this story is not just clothing. It is a symbol of everything we cling to. Old relationships, old memories, old roles, old beliefs. When we refuse to change robes, we are also refusing our own growth. The Buddha taught, our mind is like a room. If we do not clean it, dust will cover everything. And Zen Master Cairo reminded him in the same spirit. If you keep wearing the old coat, you will never see the new one. In Zen, this is the lesson of letting go. Releasing old attachments so the mind can become clear. Letting go does not mean forgetting. It means no longer being controlled by memories, like a gardener who must cut away dead branches each year so the tree can grow. If everything is kept, the tree becomes heavy, breaks, and cannot bloom. The human heart is the same. If it wants to blossom into happiness, it must dare to let fall what has reached the end of its season. Modern psychology calls this emotional dependency. When people cling to what is familiar, even though it no longer brings joy. Many studies show that the fear of change does not come from losing a person or an object, but from the fear of losing the familiar self-image we have within that relationship. So, the Zen master was not only talking about the robe, he was speaking about the old self. Sometimes, what we need to leave behind is not another person, but an old version of ourselves. The one who is always anxious, always afraid, always trying to hold on to something that is no longer alive. In today's life, we also wear many old coats. The coat of roles we once carried, the coat of old relationships, the coat of beliefs that are no longer true. We say, I am a good mother. I am a devoted husband. I am someone who is never wrong. And when circumstances change, we suffer because we don't want to take off those labels. But think about it. A child cannot grow if it keeps trying to wear clothes from years ago. The human soul is the same. It only develops when it is allowed to take off what has become too tight. According to research by Dr. Joe Dispenza, when people dare to let go of negative memories and old emotional habits, the brain restructures itself, creating new neural connections that help them become happier and more creative. In other words, changing robes is also changing the mind, and only when we dare to step through that empty space, where we no longer cling to anything, can we see the wide openness of inner peace. When the student had finally taken off the old robe, Zen Master Cairo said, "Do you see? When you no longer cling to anything, you begin to see everything more clearly." Reen placed his palms together. "Master, then is silence also a way of taking something off?" The Zen master nodded, his eyes gazing far away. "The strong one is not the one who talks the most, but the one who can stand still in the middle of noise. When a seeker stops explaining, their energy becomes transparent. Sometimes silence is the voice of wisdom." The mountain wind blew gently across the temple veranda. The bell rang out, its sound stretching long. A new chapter of the journey was beginning. The story of the power of silence. The old coat is the symbol of everything we do not dare to let go of. When we know how to take it off, we do not lose anything. We simply return to ourselves, lighter, clearer, freer, because letting go is not the end of love. It is loving enough to no longer be afraid of losing. There is a paradox in life. The more voices there are, the easier it is for people to move away from the truth. The more we try to prove we are right, the more we lose connection with ourselves. People assume that strength lies in words, in arguing, debating, and explaining. But in reality, the true strength of the mind lies in stillness. The Buddha taught, "In stillness, wisdom arises. In noise, delusion takes root." Look at nature. When a storm rises, the water turns muddy. No one can see the bottom of the lake. Only when the wind stops and the surface becomes calm can it reflect the sky clearly. The human mind is the same. When we constantly react, justify, and explain, the mind becomes as turbulent as a lake in a storm. But when we pause, simply breathe and observe, the mind becomes a mirror that illumines all phenomena. Stillness does not mean doing nothing. It means doing everything with awareness. It is not the silence of the weak, but the strength of someone who understands. Summer dusk settled over the bamboo forest. The last light of day filtered through the leaves, casting shimmering patterns on the old brick courtyard of the ancient temple. Everything was so quiet you could hear the bamboo gently brushing against itself. In that space, a young meditation student walked in, his eyes full of sorrow that had been held in for many days. He bowed, his voice barely above a whisper, as if afraid to break the stillness. "Master, people are misunderstanding me. I want to explain, to prove that I am not wrong." But the more I speak, the more everyone pulls away. Why is that? Zen Master Ryoku did not rush to answer. He simply looked at his student with eyes as deep as a lake with no wind. Then he said, "Come with me." They walked to the back courtyard, where a large drum made of animal hide hung beneath an old eave. The evening wind passed by, making the drumhead vibrate ever so slightly, creating a faint sound, half like the wind, half like a distant call from somewhere far away. "Do you hear the drum?" the master asked. "Yes, I hear it." "Is it beating by itself?" "No, the wind makes it vibrate." Zen Master Ryoku nodded gently, as if that was the answer he had been waiting for. "You see? The drum only vibrates when the wind touches it. Your mind is the same. When the wind of praise and blame, right and wrong blows in, you immediately begin to vibrate. You react, you argue, you want to prove yourself. And then the noise comes from you, not from others." The student lowered his head. He knew the master was right. The more he defended himself, the more he was swept up in the waves of exhaustion created by the world. The Zen master stepped closer to the drum and rested his hand lightly on the drumhead. The wind still blew, but the drum remained still, making no sound at all. "Do you see?" he said. "When a hand is placed to steady it, the drum no longer vibrates. A practitioner is like that. When they know how to keep their mind still, no matter how strong the winds of life blow, they do not create noise." He closed his eyes and listened. The bamboo forest rustled, the sound of the wind moving like an invisible river through the stalks, thin, deep, and impossible to grasp. "Do you hear anything?" the master asked. "Yes, the wind," the student replied. The master opened his eyes, a moon-like smile appearing briefly. "No, it is not just the wind. It is the sound of stillness, being told through the wind." The master's words were as light as a breath, but they dropped into the student's heart like a clear drop of water falling onto a still lake. Something inside him softened. All the irritation, the sense of being erased, all the urges to argue began to dissolve like evening mist. A tear quietly rolled down his cheek. He did not feel ashamed, and he did not try to wipe it away. He only said softly, "I understand now. I don't need to defeat anyone. I only need to calm the storm inside my own heart." The bamboo forest kept singing. The drum remained still. And in that moment, the student felt his mind settle for the first time, like a lake with no more ripples. In Zen, stillness is not the absence of sound, but the absence of inner turbulence. When Zen Master Ryoku spoke of standing still in the midst of noise, he was not commanding the body, but reminding the heart to remain at peace amid change. The Buddha taught, "There is no enemy outside. There's only the agitated mind within." The drum in the wind is a metaphor for the ego being shaken by external conditions. If someone is not stable inside, every criticism, every look, every silence makes their mind wobble. But someone who has awakened still smiles because they know. There is no need to cover the ears to escape noise. One only needs to quiet the mind to find peace. Stillness is the root of mindfulness. Mindfulness is not about forcing ourselves to sit still, but about clearly knowing each movement, inside and outside, without being swept away. Modern psychology calls this active emotional regulation. When people learn to observe their emotions instead of reacting, the part of the brain linked to reasoning, the prefrontal cortex, is activated, helping them remain calm, clear, and make wiser decisions. In daily life, this means when someone insults us, we do not need to respond. When someone leaves, we do not need to cling. When someone does not understand, we do not need to prove anything. Because what is the point of proving when someone does not want to listen? The more we explain, the further they go. Zen Master Ryoku did not recommend silence out of weakness, but because that silence is a shield that protects the mind from storms. In today's world, people talk a lot, but listen very little. We live in an ocean of information, noise, arguments, and endless collisions of opinions. Every day, we react constantly to social media, to coworkers, to family, even to our own thoughts. But the more we react, the more energy we lose. The more we try to make others understand, the further we drift from ourselves. Learning to be silent at the right time is learning to protect our inner energy. Stillness is not about running away from the world. It is knowing how to live in the world without being swept away by it. When the mind is still, we see clearly the causes of everything. When the mind is still, we know what should be said and what should be let go. According to research from Harvard University, just 5 minutes a day in quiet, even without formal meditation, can reduce the activity of the brain's reactive center, the amygdala, and increase focus and emotional recovery. That means stillness is medicine for the mind. Like a mirror, if we keep touching, wiping, and adjusting it, its surface stays blurry. But if we leave it alone for a while, the dust naturally settles. In the same way, when we stop arguing and explaining, the truth shines by itself. The next morning, the student asked Zen Master Ryoku, "Master, once I know how to stand still in the middle of noise, how do I keep walking without being afraid that others will leave me behind?" The master looked into the distance, where sunlight was streaming through the bamboo. You do not need to wait for anyone, and you do not need to pull anyone along. When you carry a lamp in the night, do not blame those who do not want to walk with you. They fear the light because they are not yet used to seeing themselves clearly. You only need to keep walking and illuminate your own path. A gentle breeze blew by, and the old drum sounded once more. No longer loud, just a soft tone, like the breath of the earth. And the student's journey continued toward the next lesson: light and the fear within human beings. Stillness is not the empty space between two sounds. It is the inner space where wisdom can speak. Someone truly strong does not need to prove themselves and does not need to raise their voice. They only need to stand still in the middle of noise. Because when the heart is at peace, all the answers are already contained within that very silence. Have you ever wondered why, when you begin to change and live better, the very people who were once close to you start drifting away? Why is it that the moment you choose a brighter path, some people become uncomfortable, critical, or even leave you? People often think that when they live rightly and kindly, others will understand. But the truth is the opposite. The brighter you become, the more the darkness feels blinded. Those who are not ready to face the truth within themselves will fear the light in others. The Buddha taught, not everyone loves the light, because the light reveals what they are trying to hide. Imagine someone holding a lamp in the middle of the night. The lamp lights the way, but it also reveals faces, stains, and things people do not want others to see. What will they do? They may turn away, cover their eyes, or even blame the light for being too harsh. That is why, when you walk with clarity and sincerity, don't expect everyone to walk with you. Not because they are bad, but because they are not yet ready to see themselves clearly. And that is the message in Master Yurin's teaching. When you carry a lamp in the night, do not blame those who do not want to walk with you. They fear the light because they are not used to seeing themselves clearly. You only need to keep walking and illuminate your own path. That night, in an ancient temple deep within a bamboo forest, the wind suddenly roared. The bamboo groaned against each other, sounding like ocean waves rising. Dark clouds rolled in and covered the entire valley, and the path from the village to the temple disappeared completely into thick darkness. Under the wooden eaves, young novice Han curled up in his thin robe. In his hands was a small oil lamp, its flame trembling, fighting every gust of wind. The light flickered, bright one moment, dim the next, barely able to illuminate an area the size of his palm. Han was waiting for his fellow novice, the one who promised to go with him down the mountain to bring medicine to the villagers. But he waited and waited, until the night chill seeped into his fingers, and still no one came. A strong gust of wind blew suddenly, almost snuffing out the flame. Han sighed and thought sadly, "It's so dark. If I go alone, I'll get lost. I should wait until dawn." Just then, footsteps echoed softly on the stone steps. Master Yurin appeared from the darkness. Dust clung to his robe as if he had just returned from a long journey, yet his eyes were bright and peaceful, like the full moon. "Why are you still sitting here?" he asked. Han lowered his head, his voice small like a passing breeze. "Master, it's too dark, the wind is too strong, and no one wants to go with me." The Zen master did not scold him, nor rush to offer advice. He sat beside Han and placed his large hand around the trembling flame. The light steadied. "Are you afraid because the road is dark?" the master asked. "Or because you have to go alone?" Han hesitated for a moment, then answered, "Both, master. I'm afraid of getting lost, afraid of wild animals, afraid the lamp will go out in the deep forest." Master Yurin looked at him for a long time, as if seeing through the fear inside him. "A person walking in the night," he said, "will always tremble if they only look at the darkness. But if they keep their eyes on the light right in front of them, even a tiny flame, they can walk through the entire night." He lifted the small lamp and handed it to Han. "Take it. This light is weak, but it is enough to show you each step. And as you walk, the light will spread. You don't need anyone beside you. You only need to make sure it does not go out." Han took the lamp with trembling hands. "But, Master, what if the wind is too strong and the light goes out?" Master Yurin smiled softly. warm enough to light the whole courtyard. When the lamp goes out, remember this: the light does not disappear, it only changes place. And in that moment, you must become the lamp yourself. Without another word, the master stepped into the night. No lamp, no fear. His figure slipped into the darkness as gently as water sinking into soil. Han looked after him, then looked at the small flame in his hand. In the thick darkness, that faint light suddenly felt clearer, warmer. He stood up, took a deep breath, and began walking down the forest path. Step by step, slow but steady. Villagers later said they saw a young novice walking through the deep forest that night with a small lamp in his hand. And strangely, behind him, swarms of fireflies gathered, lighting the path like a stream of glowing stars guiding his way. The lamp in the story is more than a light source. It is the symbol of mindfulness and wisdom in the darkness of ignorance, where fear, anger, and misunderstanding dominate. Just one spark of mindfulness can help a person find their way again. The Buddha taught, one lamp can light thousands of other lamps without losing its own light. But to become that lamp, we must accept that not everyone wants to be illuminated. Light does not only shine outward, it shines inward, revealing what we are not ready to face. As you walk the path of awakening, some people will leave, not because you are wrong, but because your light makes them uneasy. Like someone sleeping who does not want to be awakened by sunlight. Master Yurin taught, do not blame them and do not turn back. If you try to pull them along, you will drop your own lamp. Stillness, steadiness, and compassion. These are the three qualities of those who carry the light. Compassion, so they do not resent others. Steadiness, so they do not stop walking. Stillness, so the light does not flicker. Modern psychology shows that people who can maintain focus and mindfulness reduce their negative emotional reactions by up to 40%. A bright mind does not fear darkness. It understands that darkness is simply where light has not yet reached. In life, each of us carries our own lamp. It may be kindness, understanding, or the desire to live truthfully. But when we step forward with that lamp, the world does not always welcome it. People may mock kindness, reject sincerity, or make us doubt our own light. When that happens, do not turn off your lamp. If you give up, darkness wins. Remember, true light does not need approval. It only needs to keep shining. There will be moments when you feel lonely. But that loneliness is not real loneliness. It is the moment you step away from the old crowd, entering a new space of consciousness. According to research on flow state, when people focus deeply on what they believe in, the brain releases dopamine, bringing clarity and ease. This means, when you live rightly, joy arises naturally. You don't need applause. The joy comes from within. And as you keep walking, your light will make others curious. Then gradually, they will want to be lit by it too. That is how wisdom spreads, not through words, but through the energy of presence. If tonight you feel exhausted from being misunderstood or abandoned, remember that every lamp must pass through darkness before dawn. Sit down. Relax your shoulders. Close your eyes. Imagine a small lamp glowing softly in your chest. Not harsh, not weak. Its light spreads through your body and slowly into the space around you. Breathe in. Whisper, I am returning. Breathe out. Whisper, the light is still here. You don't need to light the way for others. Just keep the light in your heart alive and let it shine naturally. Sleep is also a journey through the night. If you walk it with a peaceful heart, the night slowly brightens, and in your dreams, you will see yourself walking on a luminous path, free of fear. When the student returned to the temple and told Master Urin that he had walked the whole night with just a small lamp, the master smiled. You have understood. It does not take a great light to dispel darkness. Just one lamp that is true and steady can brighten the entire night. Then he added, as a tree knows when to shed its leaves, a person must know when to let go. Do not cling to branches that have dried, because in letting go, new energy is born. The temple bell echoed, carrying its sound through the night air. Moonlight fell softly on the ground, gentle as a heart that has just awakened. Not everyone is ready to walk with the light, but true light never stops for fear of being alone. Those who awaken do not walk to convince anyone. They walk to illuminate themselves, and in that illumination, the world begins to change. Starting from one small lamp in a very long night. There is a paradox in life that few people notice. We want to grow, yet we are afraid of change. We long for freedom, yet we cling to things that are slowly decaying. Humans are not only afraid of losing people and things. Deeper than that, we fear losing the familiar version of ourselves. We cling to the past like a leaf clinging tightly to a branch, even when the tree has stopped sending sap to it. Then we ask ourselves, why don't I feel alive anymore? Why don't I feel the joy I once had? The Buddha taught, all conditioned things are impermanent. To flow with impermanence is wisdom. Take a look at a forest in autumn. Leaves fall, the wind rustles through them, and it all seems like decay. But in that very moment, the trees are preparing for new life. If the leaves do not fall, the branches will not have the strength to support the new buds of spring. The human heart is the same. If we do not dare to let go of what has grown old, relationships, roles, expectations, wounds, we cannot welcome the freshness life is offering us. Letting go is not loss. Letting go is a deep expression of love and wisdom. Love for ourselves, enough to stop clinging to what is hurting us, and wisdom to recognize that everything has its season. Just as a tree knows when to drop its leaves, we too must learn to let go at the right time. That is the spirit of the next story. In an old temple at the foot of a mountain, where the seasons pass as gently as breath, there lived an elderly Zen master named Jinen. His white hair blended with the morning mist, and his steps were so slow, it felt as if he were walking side by side with time itself. What made people cherish him was not only his wisdom, but also a special calmness that surrounded him whenever he walked through the garden behind the temple, where bamboo leaves rustled and every season carried the scent of fresh earth. One early autumn afternoon, when the wind began to shift and the first yellow leaves fell into the courtyard, the young novice Gaku stood watching for a long while. Then he walked over and said in a heavy tone, "Master, I feel sad whenever I see the leaves falling. Autumn makes me think of separation, of things that have to go, and of the fear of time passing." Master Jinin bent down and picked up a yellow leaf lying on the stone step. He turned it gently in his hand, and the late afternoon sunlight shone on its surface like dying embers. "Do you think this leaf is dying?" he asked. Gaku hesitated. "Yes, I think so, master." The Zen master smiled, a gentle smile like late autumn sunlight. "The leaf is not dying, Gaku. It is simply returning to its root. By falling, it nourishes the soil. And when spring comes, the tree will bud again. The falling leaf is part of continuity." Gaku fell silent. A gust of wind swept through, leaving the branches barer than before. The last leaves let go of the branches, spinning in the air before settling on the ground, like the final breaths of a song. "But, master," Gaku said softly, "why do I still feel so empty?" "Because you are looking at autumn with a mind that wants to hold on," the master replied. "If you look with a mind of gratitude, you will see how beautiful autumn truly is." Then he picked up an old bamboo broom and began sweeping the leaves in the courtyard. Each stroke of the broom against the ground sounded slow and steady, like the breathing of someone who deeply understands the laws of life. "Every leaf that falls is a reminder," he said. "Do not try to hold on to what has already run its course." The next morning, before the sun rose above the mountain, Gaku woke early to look for his teacher. He found Master Jinen sitting quietly beneath a large tree in the courtyard, his eyes half closed. In his hands was a dry branch, bare of leaves, with only the thin veins remaining like lines drawn by time. Gaku asked softly, "What are you doing, master?" "I am learning to let go, just like this tree," the master answered. "It does not resist when its leaves fall away. It understands that winter is necessary so that spring can return stronger than before." From that day on, whenever Gaku felt something too heavy to release, a sadness, a regret, someone who had gone far away, he would go out to the temple courtyard. He would sit beneath the old tree, watch the leaves spin in the wind, and listen quietly to the sound of the wind passing through the branches. In that sound, he felt as though he could hear his teacher whispering, "Letting go at the right time is how you preserve life in your heart." The story, "The Dry Branch in the Autumn Garden," is a symbolic image of impermanence, one of the three fundamental marks of existence in Buddhism. The Buddha taught, "All things change. Whoever clings to the impermanent will suffer." The tree does not cling to its leaves, but people cling to their past. The tree knows when it is time to shed, but humans fear the winter of their lives. Master Jinen did not teach Gaku through theory. He taught through living images. A falling leaf is the most natural form of letting go. When we truly understand this law, we are no longer afraid of loss, because we recognize nothing really goes away. It is only changing form. From a psychological perspective, Humans tend to seek a comfort zone, a place where they feel in control. But life never stands still. The effort to control everything creates stress, anxiety, and pain. Zen teaches us to accept and move with life, not to give up, but to let go of the illusion of control. When we stop resisting change, the mind becomes softer, more flexible, and clearer. Like water, if it insists on keeping one shape, it becomes stagnant. Only by flowing can water stay clear. In life today, how many times do we cling to dry branches? A relationship with no life left in it, a job that no longer carries meaning, a belief that is no longer true, or an image of ourselves that no longer fits who we really are. We keep holding on, afraid of loss, afraid of change, believing that holding on is safety, but it is that very clinging that wears us out, like a tree in autumn trying to hold onto its leaves. In doing so, it no longer has enough energy to bloom again. Letting go does not mean being cold or indifferent. Letting go is a conscious act. It is knowing what should remain and what needs to leave. According to research by psychologist Robert Emmons, accepting loss and transforming negative emotions into gratitude can reduce symptoms of depression by up to 23% and increase positive energy. In other words, when we let go, we do not become weaker. We are reborn. Just as winter is not the end, but nature's resting period to prepare for spring, we too need inner winters. Those seasons of stillness and shedding that allow us to become stronger and clearer. One spring morning, when the tree behind the temple began to bud, the young novice Gaku asked Master Jinin, "Master, how do I know if others truly respect me?" The Zen master smiled and pointed to the tiny new shoots. When a tree lets go of its old leaves, it does not need anyone to praise it. It simply grows new buds. Then he said, "True freedom is not needing to be chosen. When you no longer need anyone's approval, when you are full enough to walk with your own light, that is when you are most deeply respected." The temple bell rang softly in the early morning. Spring wind passed through the branches, and the young green shoots trembled gently, like the earth itself was offering its blessing. Letting go at the right time is not loss. It is returning to your true, living self. Just as a tree sheds its leaves to be reborn, we let go of what is old to become who we really are, free, peaceful, and full of life. Have you ever wondered why humans fear abandonment so much, when in the very moment we are abandoned, we actually have the greatest chance to return to ourselves? Why we want to be chosen, to be loved, to be acknowledged. But the more we crave these things, the more dependent we become, and the more we lose our inner freedom. A strange paradox. People often think freedom comes from being chosen by someone else. But in Zen, true freedom is when we no longer need to be chosen, not because we've become numb, but because the heart has become full enough not to depend on anyone's approval. Like a mountain standing beneath the sky, it doesn't need anyone to praise its height to remain tall. Like the moon, it stays full even if clouds cover it. Humans, however, Sometimes just one person turning their back is enough to shake the entire heart and make us lose ourselves. Why? Because most of us do not live from within ourselves. We live from the eyes of others. When they choose us, we feel valuable. When they walk away, we think we've lost everything. But Zen teaches, true value does not come from being chosen. It comes from knowing who you are when no one is standing beside you. And that is where the next story begins. In a small temple on the mountainside, where mornings always smelled of tea and evenings were bathed in silver moonlight, there lived a Zen master named Ryunin. He lived so simply that time itself seemed to leave him alone. Every morning he swept the courtyard with an old bamboo broom. Every afternoon he sat under the eaves watching the leaves fall. And every night he was as quiet as if he were speaking with the sky. People came to Ryunin when their hearts were wounded, when their minds were full of questions, or when they had just lost someone they loved. Whoever came always received a gentle look and a warm cup of tea, enough to calm the storms inside them. That autumn evening, the wind was cool and red maple leaves covered the courtyard. A young disciple walked in, exhausted, his eyes swollen as if he had weathered a long storm in his heart. He knelt before the master, his voice breaking. "Master, I did everything I could to make that person stay. I tried. I sacrificed. I held on as tightly as I could. But in the end, they still chose someone else. I don't understand. Where did I go wrong? Was I not good enough? Or was I simply not worthy of being chosen?" Master Ryunin didn't answer immediately. He poured tea, placed a cup in front of the disciple, then pointed toward the courtyard. "Do you see that leaf?" The disciple looked. A yellow leaf fell from a branch, spun gently through the air, and rested on the cold ground. "It has fallen, Master. So do you think it is sad?" the master asked. After a moment of hesitation, the disciple shook his head. "Probably not. The leaf is simply following the season." Ryunin nodded, a smile hidden beneath his silver beard. "That's right. When the season arrives, the tree releases its leaves not because it hates them, but because it knows it is time for both to be free. The person who left you may also be part of a season changing. It's not that they didn't value you. It's that the bond between you had already completed itself. If you keep holding on, you only weigh down the branch, and the leaf cannot return to the earth to nourish its own root." The disciple bowed his head. Tears fell, soaking into the cold stone floor like the first raindrops of autumn. "But Master, if they didn't choose me, how do I know I still have value?" The Zen master looked toward the mountain peak, where white clouds drifted like time moving without urgency. "When you no longer need anyone to choose you," he said, "you will see that you never lost any value at all. Value does not lie in someone else's decision. It lies in how you face the feeling of being abandoned and how you rise from it." The disciple was silent for a long time. Then he whispered, "Master, have you ever feared being forgotten the way I am afraid right now?" Ryunin chuckled softly, his eyes gentle like a crescent moon. "When we still need to be remembered, it means we are still clinging. When the heart is truly still, being remembered or forgotten, being chosen or left behind, they are all just like the wind passing over this temple roof. The wind goes, then comes again. But the mountain remains still. The disciple looked up at his teacher, and for the first time, his pain began to soften, like a leaf finally letting itself fall with the wind, not resisting, not clinging, simply returning to where it belongs. Master Ryunen's answer reached the root of suffering, our attachment to being chosen. From birth, humans carry the fear of being excluded. We fear not being loved, not being acknowledged, not belonging to someone's embrace. But in that fear, we hand our freedom over to others. The Buddha taught, the one who knows they have enough is the wealthiest. When the heart knows it is enough, we no longer need to be chosen. That heart is like a calm lake. It does not lose its peace because of a single stone thrown into it. But when the heart is full of the need for validation, even one moment of someone's neglect can hurt deeply. Zen is the art of releasing, accepting, and returning. When we release the need to be chosen, we are not becoming indifferent. We are simply choosing to live without conditions. Love, work, relationships, they may come and go, but we remain ourselves, not dissolving in anyone's decision. In modern psychology, this is the shift from a dependent mind to an autonomous mind. When a person establishes inner worth, they no longer need others to measure it. The human brain naturally performs social mirroring. We see ourselves through the eyes of others. But in Zen, we learn to see ourselves directly, without a mirror. That is the first step toward freedom. Whenever we are rejected, abandoned, or not chosen, instead of thinking, "I'm not good enough," ask, "Is this the moment I learn to stay with myself?" When you stop seeking approval, you'll realize you were never small. You just forgot how to stand on your own. The one who releases the need to be chosen becomes light like a leaf, not blaming the season for the wind, not losing themselves because someone walks away. This is the spirit of inner freedom, not being bound by outcomes, not being defined by someone else's choices. Modern science also shows that when the mind is consumed by rejection, the part of the brain that processes physical pain becomes active, meaning emotional rejection really does hurt like a physical wound. But the interesting part is, when we focus on the breath and acknowledge our feelings without resisting them, that same region gradually calms down. Zen is this healing, not through logic, but through quiet acceptance. Master Ryunen once said, "True freedom is not in being chosen. It is in being able to smile when no one chooses you, for by then the heart is no longer dependent, and love has transcended form." Those who seek the way understand. Loneliness is not emptiness. It is the doorway back to oneself. Those who walk the way realize, in stillness, the heart echoes the clearest. And sometimes, losing someone else is exactly how we find ourselves again. Have you ever noticed that what truly frightens us is not loneliness itself, but the feeling that no one understands us within that loneliness? You can sit in a crowd, have hundreds of messages, thousands of connections, yet deep inside, still feel as if you're wandering through an empty world. The older we get, the more afraid we become of silence. We play music to drown out our sighs, scroll through social media to fill the quiet, reach for someone just so we don't have to face ourselves. But the paradox is, the more we run from loneliness, the tighter loneliness clings to us. In Buddhist teaching, there is something profound. Loneliness is not emptiness. It is a doorway back to yourself. Only when we sit quietly within that empty space can we hear the calling of the deep heart, a voice long hidden beneath the noise of life. Just as a lake can reflect the sky only when its surface is still, a person can only see their true reflection when they are willing to accept stillness. Long ago, in a temple on the peak of Mount Siren, there lived a Zen master named Togen. People called him the Master of the Wind because anyone who sat near him felt an unusual peace, like a breeze gliding across water. One day, a young student came to him. His face was full of sorrow, his eyes exhausted, his steps heavy. He knelt down and said, "Master, I have no one left beside me. The person I loved has gone. My friends have drifted away. Every night I sit alone, listening to the rain, feeling as if the whole world is against me. Why does loneliness hurt so much?" Master Togen silently looked at him, then pointed toward the window. Outside, fog covered the mountainside. He asked, "Do you see the mountain?" "No, the fog is too thick. I can't see anything." Togen nodded. "When the fog covers it, the mountain is still there. Loneliness is like the fog. It doesn't erase your existence. It only makes you temporarily unable to see yourself." The student looked up, quiet for a moment, then whispered, "But Master, I'm afraid of being alone. I'm afraid of this emptiness." Togen stepped into the courtyard and pointed to a bare tree, stripped of leaves in winter. "Do you see that tree completely bare?" "Yes, it looks so sad." The Zen master smiled. "But the tree isn't dead. It's simply preparing for a new spring. And just like you, your lonely days are when your heart is quietly being reborn. Don't fear them. Let them nourish you from within." The young man looked at the tree, and something inside him softened. But still he asked, "Then, Master, when will my spring come?" Togen looked directly into his eyes. "It will come when you stop counting the days and start listening to the wind." The student was silent for a long time. Then he bowed, his forehead touching the ground, tears falling, but no longer bitter. Something melted inside him, like snow thawing on the temple roof. The story of Master Togen is a deep metaphor for the true nature of loneliness. Humans are not afraid of being alone. They are afraid of being alone without meaning. They think loneliness is a sign of failure, of being left behind. But in truth, it is the beginning of awakening. The Buddha taught, "In stillness, the true mind appears." Loneliness is the space where the true mind begins to surface. When there is no one left to rely on, we finally return to relying on ourselves. In Zen, loneliness is not a lack. It is the meeting point between two currents, the old dissolving, the new not yet born. It is the in-between space where the mind is tested so it can grow. If the mind is like a garden, then loneliness is its winter. cold, empty. Yet within that winter, the seeds of peace are sleeping. When spring comes, wisdom blooms from that loneliness. Modern psychology also confirms this. Loneliness activates the part of the brain responsible for deep self-awareness. When we are no longer distracted by others, the brain begins to face itself, learning how to understand, love, and heal our own being. That is why someone who can sit quietly in loneliness is someone who is returning to themselves. We often say, "I want someone beside me." But in reality, what we need is not a person, but a connection. And the first connection must begin with our own heart. If the heart is a bottomless pit, no one can fill it. If the heart is a still lake, whether people come or go, it still reflects the sky. In life, whenever you feel lonely, ask, am I resisting this emptiness, or am I listening to it? Because when we resist it, loneliness becomes suffering. But when we listen, loneliness becomes a teacher. A Harvard study found people who are able to be alone without feeling lonely have a happiness level 37% higher than those who constantly need interaction, because they know how to self-regulate emotionally and how to be their own companion. Loneliness, when viewed with mindfulness, becomes a silent meditation of the heart. We learn to observe the breath, hear the wind, and realize in every moment with no one beside us, we still have ourselves, and we still have life. When understanding arises, the seeker smiles. They no longer need to be seen, because they themselves have become the light. The lotus does not beg to be illuminated. It blooms when its time arrives. In the same way, when the heart is still, loneliness is no longer frightening. It becomes a resting place where the seed of awakening begins to grow. And in the dawn of that inner morning, your own light slowly begins to open. Have you ever noticed that what truly exhausts us is not being criticized, but constantly trying to be recognized? The more we want to shine, the more we can be swallowed by our own darkness. We want someone to see our worth, to love us, understand us, praise us, remember us. But the more we want to be seen, the more we lose the freedom of our inner light. Like a lotus blooming in muddy water, it does not beg the sun to shine on it, does not plead for anyone to admire it. It simply blooms at the right time, in the right season, true to its own nature. That is the wisdom of the lotus, and that is also the lesson of a practitioner, of someone learning how to live in this world and still keep their heart pure. The core teaching of the Buddha says, "No one can give you light if you do not already carry the seed of light within you." In other words, we do not need to go looking for illumination. We need to become the source of light ourselves. In an old temple by the White Lotus Lake, there lived an elderly Zen master and his disciple. Every morning, the master would go out to the lake, watch the lotus flowers bloom, then sit in silence for a long time. One day, a young disciple came to him, his face full of sadness. He bowed his head and said, "Master, I have tried so hard, but no one seems to notice my efforts. I've become more diligent, more kind, but it feels like I'm still invisible in other people's eyes. Sometimes I think I have to change, to stand out more, to be seen. even if it's just to prove that I have value." The Zen master said nothing. He poured a cup of tea, placed it in front of him, then pointed toward the lake. "Do you see that lotus over there?" The disciple looked up. In the still water, a white lotus was blooming. The morning light reflected on each petal, shimmering like crystal. The master asked, "Does it beg the sun to shine on it?" "No, master." "But the sun still finds it, doesn't it?" The disciple nodded, a hint of surprise in his eyes. The Zen master smiled. "People in this world are exhausted not because they lack light, but because they keep begging to be illuminated. When you are truly a lotus, you don't need to beg the sun. When you are truly light, you don't need anyone to recognize you." Hearing that, the disciple burst into tears. "But master, if no one sees me, do I really exist?" The master looked down at the water, where the lotus was reflected on the surface. "Do you see? Even when no one is looking, the lotus still blooms. Light does not need to be proven to be light. What is true does not need praise in order to exist. If you live only to be seen, you will forever lose yourself in other people's gaze." A soft breeze passed by, rippling the surface of the water. The lotus's reflection wavered, but the real lotus stood completely still. The master spoke gently. "When you truly understand this, you will see. Light does not come from being seen. It comes from no longer needing to be seen." In those words, the master was not really speaking about the lotus, but about the heart of the seeker. In everyday life, everyone wants to be acknowledged. Yet the moment we live for recognition, we hand over our freedom to the eyes of others. The Buddha taught, "The awakened one no longer seeks fame, because they have already found their worth in each breath." This does not mean we deny praise or recognition. It simply means we no longer let our self-worth depend on it. The more a person craves to be put in the spotlight, the further they drift from the calm, inner brightness of the heart. Outer light always changes, like sunlight, electric lights, or applause. But the inner light of wisdom and mindfulness is what never goes out. According to modern psychology, those who constantly need validation often carry an inner emotional hunger. It makes them dependent, easily hurt, easily comparative. Those who know how to light themselves from within tend to have a higher sense of well-being and are less affected by praise and criticism. This is exactly the spirit of, "When the mind is at peace, the world is at peace." In Zen, true recognition does not come from others, but from being fully one with the present moment. When we give our whole heart to what we are doing, sweeping the courtyard, making tea, or simply sitting still, the energy of mindfulness radiates by itself, and light naturally appears. No need to show off, no need to prove anything. In daily life, many people ask, "How can I get others to see my worth?" But the real question is, how can I reach the point where I no longer need others to confirm my worth? When we understand this, we will live like a lotus in the pond. No competition, no forcing, no demanding. Just living true to our nature, and light will find us on its own. Think about it. Has the sun ever forgotten to shine, even for a single day? If you are a lotus, just bloom. Light will find you when the time is right. Not early, not late. Modern science also shows that when people live with inner autonomy, the brain releases more endorphins, the happiness hormones. In other words, when we stop craving to be seen, we naturally become happier. Because our energy is no longer pulled outward, but gathered, shining from within. The Buddha said, "One who lives with a full heart radiates light even in the dark." That is the heart of the lotus, blooming in the mud without being stained, fragrant without boasting its beauty. The Zen master once said, "When understanding ripens, the seeker smiles." They no longer beg to be seen, because they themselves have become the light. The lotus does not beg to be illuminated. It blooms when its time arrives. In that light, there is no more comparison, no more struggle to be above or below. Only the freedom and peace of someone who has truly found themselves. And from that stillness, the seeker realizes something even deeper. True light does not come from outside, but from a mind that no longer longs to be illuminated. At that point, everything around us, whether dark or bright, becomes a path of practice. This story comes to a close like a lotus slowly closing its petals. But within that closure, the light remains, quiet, enduring, needing no proof. Because one who has understood no longer goes looking for light. They are the light. When someone no longer sees your worth, don't rush to be sad. Light does not disappear just because someone closes their eyes. The Buddha taught, others can only truly hurt you if you hand them the power to do so. Once you return to yourself, seeing clearly that your value does not come from praise, gazes, or recognition, you will realize that true freedom is not needing to be chosen. Let what needs to leave, leave. Like the wind carrying away leaves, like seasons passing, like a river not clinging to any single drop of water. Because when one door closes, the universe always opens another for the one calm enough to see it. When the heart is no longer hungry, life becomes as light as a breath. And within that breath, you will hear clearly the sound of peace, not from outside, but from within you. If tonight your heart feels empty, just sit quietly. Take a deep breath in, exhale slowly, and let the tension slowly dissolve. Let the bell within your heart ring, soft, clear, and bright. You do not need to prove you are good enough. You only need to be present with awareness. That is the true worth of someone who has learned how to bloom like a lotus in the mud without needing anyone to see them. Thank you for being here, for listening and walking through this journey with me. If the teachings in this video have touched your heart, please subscribe to the Buddhism Seeds channel so we can continue this journey together, returning to peace, one breath at a time. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment below. I truly want to hear how you feel. Wishing you a peaceful night and a deep sleep as gentle as the wind. Remember, even if others forget, your Buddha nature within is always shining.